Good evening, everybody. I wasn't going to stream today because it's actually a holiday. Normally I take the Canadian holidays for myself, but given that I'm going to be missing a few days for vacation, I tried to pull this off. Now, there's going to be some consequences for that as far as availability for work and some other things, but I'll try and deal with that. And if there are fewer YouTube videos for you to watch, those of you that enjoyed this now know why. So I'd just like to make sure that there's a pulse in terms of the bit rate. Okay, looking good. So we'll hop back in. Now, it's this is always a trouble whenever I wait after a weekend. I run into this with Book of Hours as well. With a weekend, there's just not that same immediate recall in terms of where my priorities were. So I know we recently went through we talked with Tunon, but I believe we had some characters that we wanted to talk to before we left the court, and I don't 100% remember that. But that's fine. I'm sure it'll all come to me as soon as I see the screen. Sorry, just need a minute here. Now that I know that it has the stars, it's not as big of a deal to add those. Mercy, my Lord Tunon, mercy. All right. So yeah, there's a few things, if I recall, that I wanted to do here. It's also rather late. So I did want to appeal for Barrick's release. I wanted to follow up with the other Fate Binders. I maybe wanted, as much as I could, to interview the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus. But maybe before I go any further, let's just see what the game has to say about all of this. So I think under... Oh, this I should take advantage of. Biography, it looks like... Yeah, so set out for Vendrian's Well in the morning. It's... So far as I can tell, this is not going to change. So, Stirring Visions. Whatever you did in Ascension Hall and Vendrian's Well has given you the power to interact with the Spire. Before you ascended the Spire, you had a vision when the Edict broke. Understanding this vision might help you better grasp this new power you have acquired. Investigate the Spires. You had a vision of the Spires scattered across the tiers and could feel the connection between them and the Spire you claimed at Vendrian's Well. Gather more information about these mysterious structures and seek them out wherever possible. You have gained access to Haven. The Regent's Spire is attached to the old walls at the Lethian's Crossing settlement. I think they call it Lethian's settlement. Travel there and find a way to gain access to the Spire. The Weight of Aegis. It's a fun pun, but I think it's playing more on how people normally pronounce. So far as I can tell, the correct pronunciation is Aegis, and I know I'm not the best one for pronunciation on this stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's Aegis. But still, it's a fun pun. Barrick wants to know if there's any way he can be freed from his armored prison. Petition Tunon on Barrick's behalf. Barrick requested that you petition Tunon, the adjudicator, to have his armor removed. Speak with Tunon at his court in the Bastard City. Into the Maelstrom. The War of the Archons has begun. Support Graven Ash's initial attempts to pacify the Tiers. Meet Graven Ash at Iron Hearth. The disfavored general has regrouped his forces at the mountain fortress of Iron Hearth. Travel there to discuss the Archon of War's next move. And Trial of Archons. Tunon is displeased with the chaos that emerged from Vendrian's well. He believes that one of the warring Archons may be principally responsible for the civil war that now grips the Tiers. As you travel the Younger Realms, take note of any evidence of negligence, incompetence, or outright treason found within the Disfavored or Scarlet Chorus. Evidence against Graven Ash. All uncovered evidence will be listed here. The Disfavored attempted to bribe you to get iron weapons during the conquest. How you doing, Index No? And evidence against the Voices of Nerat. All uncovered evidence will be listed here. Now, it's interesting here. So yeah, there is definitely the idea that they're trying to cut corners. I'm not entirely sure that this is enough. So I guess the question here would be that if this is going to be a case of breaking laws, definitely that's included here. I'm not entirely sure that this is... You can directly link this to responsibility for the Civil War, especially because both sides tried. The other thing that I'll say here is I am a little surprised when the one of the participants in the rebellion says, thank the Voices of Nerat for their help. So you can say, okay, this is an effort to try and disrupt the this is an effort to try and disrupt the the invasion force. Fair enough. I'm not so sure. So I guess the question I would have would be, how far does that go in terms of saying that they know the specific composition of sort of loyalties and observations? So for instance, would they have said Graven Ash had... Now, I mean, so one question is, like, game-wise, would they have said Graven Ash if I'd chosen differently? But likewise, are they making a specific appeal to me because they know what side I went alongside, which effectively means that they have got a traitor inside the camp? Or are they just trying to sow discord? And in this case, they could just as easily have said any other rebellious element. And it's more so the fact that this requires a level of understanding of what's going on internally to the to Kairos' forces that I'm slightly more inclined to say that this was a, kind of a last FU to someone who was maybe not an ally, but definitely someone assisting out of convenience. So I would personally put the evidence down below in here. I'm not quite sure why it isn't there, but that's why I get to be me. All right, so again, based off of the notes here, so our immediate goal, of course, will be the Weight of Aegis. But I will head to Graven Ash almost immediately after. My Lord Tunon, I must plead for my innocence in this matter. That will be for the court to decide. The Forge-bound are my subjects, and I hold them to a higher standard. You are the keepers of the Iron Secret. That cannot be forgotten. Fatebinder, so kind of you to join us. I wonder if you might assist in adjudicating this case. As always, I'm curious to witness your execution of Kairos' law. It would be my pleasure, Your Honor. Excellent. Smith, offer up your testimony. The forge-bound artisan clears his throat. I bought a shiny bauble from a merchant passing through Lethian's Crossing, a stone of great beauty and strength. Over time, I shaped it into a mallet for pounding iron. The properties of the stone were incredible. I could swing harder, faster, and without strain. It increased my production of iron weapons tenfold. Until your master grew suspicious and turned you over to me. The bauble you speak was a touchstone, an artifact known to originate from the Old Walls, to which all are forbidden to go. The charge is trespass and theft of forbidden artifacts. You may proceed, Fatebinder. Did you know where the touchstone came from? Not at first. The merchant wouldn't reveal his sources, but it didn't take long to put the pieces together. You don't just encounter objects of such power anywhere else. Hey, Revive Snow, lovely to see you. I have actually, so I don't want to like understate the severity of what happened to me, or overstate the recovery, but today is probably one of the better recovery days. And this will sound like disgusting, so I'm gonna keep it short. But like, in terms of just like, I haven't gotten the courage to have a shower yet, but I have gone in the bath, and like today was very much a like scraping off a bunch of dead skin, and in terms of handling the dressings, I've sort of moved to a slightly smaller bandage. And there's like a couple of very obviously very badly hurt. I could go so far as to say it's actually the most hurt I have ever been in terms of my body. And it's really obvious there are a couple of spots that are very hard to reach on my arm where there's like something serious that happened. But on the other hand, those are the parts where it's maybe not so obvious that there's like genuine recovery. Whereas the rest of it is, like it sucks, it hurts, I'm not limping, but more so just because I don't want to like overdo it when I'm walking around with people. So, but for the most part, like it's clear kind of what the recovery is going to look like. And so, I think I might have even said this on Friday, like pain is something I can kind of manage. So again, it sucks that it happened, and there's definitely like, so for instance, I just adjusted in my chair right now, and like, it's really clear, what the, it's really clear what the deal was, but, or like, sorry, it's very clear that there's like something bad that happened to me. But I am like, today it was one of the clear moments of like, okay, it is not as bad as it was before. And no index. No, sorry, I'm not going to really relitigate too much of this, but basically I was at a crosswalk, and it's a spot which is pretty, there's a building with fairly aggressive drivers that will come out of it. And I think what happened here, based off of what sort of the eyewitnesses said, there were people putting a lot of pressure on a car to turn, while I had the right of way. And I think that led to the driver being distracted, and effectively the thing just hitting me right when I was in the middle of the intersection on this highway. So, in terms of overall harm, right, that's better than a car from, like just blazing down the highway, right? They're kind of coming from a standstill and sort of moving up to get onto the highway. So it's not like trivial, but it could have been far worse. For instance, if I didn't get out of the middle of the problem here is when I get knocked down, I'm in quite literally the middle of the highway. Now again, I had right of way, so I'm not expecting a bunch of cars to come down, but like that is not a place you ever want to be longer than you have to be. So, but yeah, so far as I can tell, it's just, somebody, my empathy will go so far as to say that, I suspect that was a really bad day for that person too, right? You have this conception that you are the sort of person who doesn't run over people with your car, that you're a responsible person. And, some people put pressure on her to a point where, she made a very careless decision. And, I don't want to be a doormat about it. The other half of that is that kind of distraction and that kind of, rushed judgment, could have had far worse consequences. But on the other hand, they didn't, right? Yes, I pay the greater amount, for it, but, it's, I wasn't like a kid, right? I wasn't someone who you wouldn't even notice hitting with the car, and so maybe it goes a bit further. Or, I'm also like, I'm not fresh out of college anymore, but like, I'm not old enough where that is like a really serious problem. I went to the barber not that long ago, and like they were talking about how, when they asked about what happened to my arm and I explained it, like they were talking about how they had a client who like basically had just retired, and talking about all the travel that they wanted to do, got hit by a car. And like years later, it's just, they have their partner who's coming in and helping them walk everywhere. Like all that stuff that they wanted to do in retirement isn't happening now. So, and I also, the other thing I will say is, like, I've been pretty lucky in terms of injuries. So it's the first time in a long time I've been in an emergency room. And so um oh, that's yeah, so, like, I get that bikers have problems they need to deal with too, but I actually really do not like the kinds of bikers that just go zipping down the sidewalk, um, you know, completely taking advantage of at least this perceived ambiguity as to whether or not they're a vehicle. Like, I get it. Bike lanes are a contentious issue in cities. It can be dangerous to ride a bike on the highway, but, like, there's got to be a level of respect for pedestrians as well, because it's basically it's the same calculation as the the vehicles, right? The damage to the party that's hit is considerably worse. um and there's, like, almost no, well, it's not this is zero consequence, but, like, definitely the burden of being a jerk on your bike is considerably lower than the person that you run into. The one that really gets me are these scooters. And, like, I get that there's some regulations in terms of, like, where you need to leave them and that, but they clearly say on them, like, not for riding on the sidewalk. And you've got some guy who, like, this happened to, like, they almost ran me over, like, while I had my my existing wound right now. And, like, I'm just trying to think what that would be like if I hit the pavement a second time on that wound. Like, that would be bad. So anyway, sorry, I said I wasn't going to relitigate it, and I just wound up doing it all over again. But yeah, so that's basically the story. I was hit by a car in an intersection. It could have been worse. I don't want to, like, overdo it. And, like I said, it was the first time in a long time I'd been in an emergency room. And, those are just, like, they're sad places in a lot of cases. Like, I was definitely not the worst case that was in there. I remember, actually, because I was brought in by the ambulance came and got me, and sort of took me to the hospital. The Like, there were 5 or 6 police officers and just a woman. It was basically like she was replaced by some kind of, like, DAT tape or something, just repeating "I need help" on a loop, like, just kind of being wheeled to the different places through the different rooms. And, like, there's the sort of the cohort I'm with in terms of the triage of, like, people who've had some, like, injuries in terms of war. So, like, I wasn't like the most minor out of the stuff that was in the ER either, but, like, there's definitely, like, when you hear a code blue, it's probably a life-changing moment for at least somebody in the hospital, right? And there's definitely a couple of those that were called while I was there. So I don't know, like, I don't want to I do have a tendency to downplay stuff that happens to me. I also have a tendency to sort of ruminate or obsess on stuff. And I guess the big thing is that, especially because it's now been a while, it's been like it's going to be, in a few days, it's going to be a week. In a few days, it's always going to be a week in a few days. I'm getting in the ballpark of a week since the injury. And so it's sort of the point where, like, if you try to milk that story a little too much, you're just kind of annoying. So I don't really want to do that. But on the other hand, too, like, I don't I do know that the tendency for myself is to downplay it. And I will say, one experience I did get out of it was, for better or worse, I do seem to have some degree of pain tolerance, at least to a point where a couple people, like, commented. One sort of more so jokingly, but yeah, like, I'm, in terms of individual impact, like, it would be wrong for me to say anything other than I was quite lucky. If that thing's going to happen to me, of course, the real luck would be not getting hit in the first place. All right, but it didn't take long to put the pieces together. You just don't encounter objects with such power anywhere else. When you realized the object's source, did you stop using it? No. Once I'd figured it out, every swing of the mallet shamed me something awful. But I knew that I was doing right by Kairos. I was sending his army the best weapons I'd ever crafted. I thought that might absolve me. I guess I thought wrong. Did you ever lie about using the mallet? No! That is, the other smiths were curious about my work, but no one thought to inspect my tools. Since no one asked, I never told them. A lie of omission, then, just as nefarious in the eyes of Kairos. What if your arcane tool had harmed someone, or yourself? What then would have become of the iron production? I don't know, Your Honor. I'm ready to give my ruling. I trust your instincts, Fanebinder. Make sure that my confidence is not misplaced. So I'm going to go over the options here, because this is kind of fun to be able to do these trials. So, the smith never betrayed Kairos. He should go free. The artifact and its use were forbidden. The smith is guilty. Or forbidden knowledge is taboo under Kairos' law, but the smith was ignorant. He should go free. Interesting. Forbidden knowledge is taboo under Kairos' law, but the smith was ignorant. He should go free. I kind of want to do this just for the lore. So, I can go. He looks from you to Tunon and back again with panic and uncertainty. A shrewd interpretation of Kairos' law, but I cannot deny its validity. Very well, the forge-bound may return to his duties, using only the tools of his trade. Is that understood? Yes, Your Honor. I'll return to my labors right away. Yeah, no, I mean, I'd love it if I was treated more, more quickly. But I'm not in a position to, like, okay, maybe I'd put it to you this way. If I had broken something and it took me that long, I would probably feel not so good about it. If, on the other hand, I had what I had, I don't like it when people tell me how to do my professional duties without any real knowledge. So I'm not going to tell triage how to handle their business either. Although I guess I am at a little bit of a disadvantage if I keep low coding my pain. It'll be an honor to return to the forge. Binder none of all. Ah, Solon, you return, unscathed and more acclaimed than ever, as seems to be your way. The Fatebinder of War clasps you good-naturedly with excessive strength on the back. Come, you must regale me with all that your journey has held. I could use a moment of respite between friends. He regards you with a warm, boisterous smile. Speak as you wish. I'd pay a boar's weight in rings to know your thoughts. He raises a hand through his thick red beard and offers you a grin. Come, let us speak freely. How were you singled out to become a Fatebinder? I cannot speak for the other Fatebinders, but I joined the court when I was yet still a boy and impetuous beyond reason. I had been imprisoned with a death sentence for the crime of desecrating corpses. He laughs hard and hearty. There was nothing so exciting as you no doubt imagining. I was merely burning corpses that awaited burial. Before local authority could see me to the gallows, the adjudicator claimed me a great talent waiting to be realized, needing only to be steered. Yeah, the problem here, Index Gnome, is that, like, obviously there's a certain subjectivity to that. So it's not that I'm trying to put on airs or anything like that. It's just like, to me, on a 1 to 10 scale, like 10 probably means we're not having the conversation in terms of pain. Why burn the bodies? Corpses piling in the streets spread plague faster than the filthiest of rats. I was but 10 and a weak fighter. I did what I could for my homeland. Why was it a crime? There was a time when even the Northmen were of superstitious stock, a time before Kairos brought reason to the realms. The people of my city believed that, without proper rites, I was cheating our fallen warriors from returning to the land. It's a good thing Tunon spared you. As I've said, the adjudicator saw within me something of rare value, as is true for us all. You as well were chosen for our great court, for which I am grateful. As the Fatebinder of War, I rely heavily on your talents. Let's talk about something else. I'm curious about Tunon's masks. They can be rather unsettling, can't they? Even to one such as me, but I can assure you the innocent need not fear their objective, emotionless gaze. What of the adjudicator's masks, specifically, would you like to know? I want to know about the silent face. The silent face is the face that Tunon shows to us now, and for that we are fortunate beyond belief. The silent face is a patient face, a face for listening as Tunon presides over all matters before the court, taking great pains to ensure all sides of an issue are heard. I want to know about the face of resolve. Tunon's last known dawning of the face of resolve was the moment he judged and called ruin to half the districts in the bastard city. Since then, he has ruled over our northern tier justly, calmly, and with efficient diplomacy. I want to know about the face that is no more. Tunon is said to have worn a third mask in eons past. I have heard rumor that the face displeased Kairos and was thus destroyed, as happens to all persons and objects that displease our overlord. Have you ever seen Tunon change his masks? In the way that you or I change our raiment? No, not as such. And yet, I've seen the masks shift. They switch without the adjudicator or anyone so much as laying a hand on them. It's not something you can watch unfold. After a time, you merely realize it has already happened. There is work enough for the court that we shouldn't occupy ourselves wondering over mysteries. Let me ask you about something else then. Well, you've garnered my attention. Could you remind me of the history and origin of the Fatebinders? The seasoned warrior rubs a finger against a line of stubble along his cheek. We're a relatively young order. We have spanned these though we have spanned these past 2 centuries. While the voices of Nerat and Graven Ash need armies to execute their will, Tunon wields but a modest court of vassals. We exist as an extension of his law. There is no place in all Terratus beyond our judgment. Tell me more about Kairos' armies, our allies. Ah yes, with friends like these, our work is often self-explanatory. Were you asking about the Scarlet Chorus or the Disfavored? The Scarlet Chorus. Scarlet Chorus soldiers hail from every corner of every realm. As the chorus marches, it conscripts indiscriminately from those it has conquered to replenish its ranks. There's no continuity of command in the chorus. Nerat allows, encourages even, the strong to challenge their leaders. But the chorus has numbers, and brute force is almost always a viable solution, much as Rogulus insists otherwise. Besides, the Scarlet Chorus draws strength from the multitudes it swallows. Its blood chanters have taken knowledge from various tiers mystics, and many of the chorus' best soldiers were grown here in the south. Tell me about the Disfavored. The Disfavored are the iron tip of Kairos' great phalanx. Armed with the best weapons, the most comprehensive training, and led by the brilliant Graven Ash, the Disfavored have no equals in open battle. The Legion has a saying, Graven Ash protects, and it's no empty boast. The Archon of War is able to lend his will and strength to his soldiers and give them endurance beyond human limits. I have a great respect for the Disfavored, but I know where I stand with them. They're a very close-knit band, all of them from northern families, many of them related to each other. None of all size, his smile wistful, but considering our role in the great hierarchy, I can't fault Graven Ash for being selective. Let me ask about something else. I've claimed the spire at Vendrian's Well. So the court's whispers are true. The Fatebinder rubs his fingers along the underside of his chin, pondering his thoughts with great weight. After a moment, he offers you a wistful sort of smile. Someday I would like to witness for myself this tower that has risen above the realms like a blade thrust into the sky. I would hear of your past victories in the war or recent events. Have you not yet tired of my tales, Solon? I do admit I never tire of telling them. He laughs hearty and deep. Very well then, let me champion the feats of my conquest. Let the glory of Kairos' reign fall on any ears that would hear of it. If but you could have come with me, my brother, on the latest mission to Haven. It was a rousing adventure, rife with bloodshed and intrigue. Inspired by the Vendrian Guard, House Ducenius had a change of heart regarding her loyalties to the Overlord, so I rode without rest on rumors that they had fled to Ardent. Several days of hounding passed before I was able to locate them and rend their bellies. By my blade, the blood that once ruled Haven ran red in the streets. By the way, I do apologize. I didn't do this for Revive Snow before, but Revive Snow is a fellow Canadian broadcaster I am very fond of watching. Although it's been a little while since I've seen your channel. I don't know if we've just been broadcasting at odd hours. Always good to see you. I'm sorry I'm sort of running out of steam in terms of the shoutouts. It's not for lack of interest. But obviously, my attention's divided in this game. Farewell. Fatebinder Callio, Solon, I see you've returned to the fold. Your exploits in Vendrian's Well are the matter of some discussion. The Fatebinder of Balance regards you with a discerning eye, and for a moment you feel as if she is trying to peer into the very depths of your mind. What can I do for you? Callio touches a gentle hand to your shoulder. Has anything happened while I was away? There have been whispers that Cairn grew disloyal to Graven Ash's command during the campaign in Azure. I took up the mantle of investigation near Plainsgate, and judging the rumors to be true, dispatched Cairn by proclaiming Kairos' Edict of Stone. The very earth turned against the traitorous Archon as the region split asunder in righteous judgment. You seem to know much of my actions. Have you been spying on me? Don't act so surprised. It's my duty to ensure that those who operate under the Adjudicator's name adhere to the spirit of his law, if not the very letter. And those who don't will be dealt with swiftly and efficiently at the point of Bledenmark's blade. Bledenmark is Kairos' knife in the shadows, the unseen drop of poison that enforces the Overlord's will. He reports to Tunon the Adjudicator, serving in his capacity as the final word to those who hold Kairos' law in contempt. Few know the origin of the Archon of Shadows or how Kairos maintains a hold on him. Those who anger the Archon never live long past sunset. I don't know, I do it because I want to. The Fatebinder slips a slim dagger from the folds of her purple garb, flipping the weapon almost idly in the air. Of course, that is assuming I don't dispatch them first. I take my duty seriously, and I am very, very good at it. How have you occupied your time in the Bastard City? Tunon sends me on assignments here and there. I settle disputes between the locals when the Adjudicator is otherwise occupied. Everything from trade disagreements to pushing chorus squatters out of basements. Real rewarding work. She weighs it off. The glory of war is not an honor reserved for the likes of us. We're the fish swimming in Tunon's wake, picking up scraps along the way. We're rather large and imposing compared to the bottom feeders of the tiers, but fish all the same. I'd like to know more about Tunon. Tunon is our overlord's fair and exacting adjudicator. He speaks with the voice of Kairos' law, and his word is judgment. All of this and more you can learn by asking him yourself. Go on, or does he intimidate you still? She chuckles softly. I jest, of course. I have some concerns about the war. You are free to share them in my confidence. She leans in closer. Our armies squabble at each other's throats. Divided, we cannot win. I'm less concerned about the armies than the Archons themselves. There can be no order when mountains collide. Who would you see as champion? It's favored. Our elite troops will bring us to victory. There was wisdom behind your reasoning. Wars are won through cunning, strategy, and strength. The disfavored are outmatched only in number on the battlefield. Considering their opposition, Ash and his soldiers more than make up the difference. Bloodshed and brutality reign supreme. Peace cannot follow such cruelty. Such is the price of conquest. We'll bring order to a land ruled by greed and corruption. When we've shown them the true way of Kairos, the masses will weep their gratitude and beg our favor. She nods to the assembled nobles in the entry hall. It has already begun. Fatebinder Rogalus. Fatebinder, you return. Rogalus looks you up and down with an inscrutable expression. You look as if you have questions for me to untangle. Ask. I'm feeling generous. Tell me about some of the past Archons. Noxmira, the Archon of Pestilence, was disliked in her circles. When she opened her eyes to see and her mouth to speak, it is said that flies would gust into the air, swarming so thick as to blacken the sky. She died in the 20th year of her birth, following a string of unusual and grotesque symptoms. I wonder if I hit this again if I'll get a different answer. Yep. Rin, the second archon of lightning, often struggled to control the power that roiled within him. If he suffered but a single slip of concentration, he risked an instant electrocution to his touch. Or so he claimed after killing the first archon of water during a diplomatic embrace. Where did you study when you were younger? I've been a ward of the court for as long as I've been aware. As a child, I demonstrated wholly perfect recall, and I absorbed all that Tunon and my tutors had to offer. I remember hating all the lectures and wishing I could learn at my pace. Funny how I envied the sages of the Tiers, how they could spend their whole lives reading and never exhaust their library. Of course, now the Vellum Citadel is nothing more than a burning waste. What do you think of the other Fate-Binders? You'll need to be more specific than that, I'm afraid. There is, on last count, slightly more than a handful of us. What's your opinion on the Fate-Binder of War? Loneval's keen, brash, and a hardy braggart with a fondness for bloodshed. He can be utterly unbearable at times. His justice is fair, even if he skews towards rather exacting and uncompromising punishments at times. What's your opinion on the Fate-Binder of Balance? Callio is the finest among us. Her discernment is beyond reproach, and she is perhaps Tunon's favorite. She has a mind for suspicion and observation that makes others uneasy. We who operate within the confines of the law have nothing to fear, of course. Your opinion of me? You follow an orderly path, regimented and organized, perhaps too orderly for our station, but that is neither here nor there if you execute your job with wisdom. Sure, you don't stray from to the path of chaos. Down that way lies rebellion. Can you tell me about the old walls and the Bane? With which should I start? Tell me about the old walls. We know little enough about the ancient structures, save that they predate all historical record. The forbidding ruins crisscross the Tiers and North alike centuries before we raised our cities. The only one old enough to guess is likely Kairos. Tell me about the Bane. The Bane are found in the old walls, but much of their defining qualities still escape me. They are creatures of smoke, claw, and fang. If you find yourself unfortunate enough to fight one, remember that spells are effective against them, but grab the attention of others lurking near. Let's discuss something else. I'd like to know more about the Tiers. The political entities of the Tiers are essentially split between the Bastard Tier, the Younger Realms, and the Free Cities. Of which would you like to know? The whole of the Tiers are divided into 3 parts. No. What can you tell me about the Bastard Tier? The Bastard Tier is the most northern of the Tiers, and was the first to bow to Kairos' reign, though the knee they bent fell unwillingly. Kairos had his eye on the Bastard Tier for many years before he marched on her capital city. This is the hub of trade and commerce. Claim the markets, and the people will follow. I'd like to know more about the Younger Realms. The Younger Realms sprawl the middle and southernmost tiers and can be catalogued as follows: Apex, Azure, Haven, and Stalwart. Azure was renowned for its exceptionally fertile land, which led the whole of the tiers. That was before Kairos' edict of stone blighted the land. Stalwart was also worth mention, for it comprises the whole of the southernmost tier and proves the toughest and most defensible of the realms. It is often said that the other realms will not fall while Stalwart still stands. The local army wages bitter war against the disfavored, though the Edict of Storms has cut off their best defenses. It is only a matter of time before Stalwart falls. I'd like to hear about the free cities. There are 3 free cities remaining: Last Harbor, Spiral's Maw, and Barrison Chains. The first and strongest of all the free cities was the Setting Sun, which Kairos crushed in 429 with the Edict of Tumult. After that, the remaining free cities were quick to surrender. To my questions. I want to talk about the sages. I will not speak of the sages. They are no better than charlatans and cons, wholly selfish in their ill pursuit to hoard all knowledge from others. They are self-blinded by their own deceptions and clever manipulations. They alone cause their own undoing, and are sorely to blame for the burning library, one of the most grievous wrongs in the known histories for which they can never be forgiven. Tell me how you really feel, jeez.
Slow and steady.
I'd immolate you right where you stand if it weren't for Tunon breathing down our necks. He ignores you with a stern and distant expression. Fatebinder, you're no stranger to Tunon's court, but I prefer to spend as little time here as possible. In spite of these closed walls, I feel strangely exposed. He glances up at Tunon. Fair warning, when you backed Ash, you were as good as signing your death warrant, but we shouldn't discuss such matters in a court of law. You'll make our time in the Tears an interesting one, won't you? He smiles for an uncomfortably long time. Of course you will. The nobles are getting restless. Keeping the peace is a real challenge. The nobles have been lining up for days to voice their problems. Why we even listen is beyond me. Didn't think I'd make out that pass alive. You've done well for the Legion, Fatebinder. Anything beats a prolonged siege, eh, Fatebinder? Enjoy the war while you can. Fatebinder. The lieutenant gives you a curt nod. I'm ill at ease in this polished hall, but I'll admit it's a reprieve from the battlefield and training grounds. If Ash needs me to stay here and represent his interests throughout the occupation, then I'll be up to the task. It can't be worse than our days in Lethian's Crossing. Joking aside, you were generous to grant the disfavored control over the city. Even the Iron Legion needs a break from the front every once in a while.
They won't see me coming.
Boo! My family survived the sacking of the bastard city. I hope we can endure Tunon's judgment. Accepting Kairos was a hard transition, but we are better for it, right? Tunon shows you great favor. Make sure you don't disappoint him. The Adjudicator is wise beyond his years. Hail Kairos! I'm getting better at remembering to say it. We used to have a nice trade agreement with the North, made a few rings on the side. Now we're vassals to the Empire. I'm sure there's a good reason for Tunon to wear a mask, not that I would ever question him. Most Archons have followers, but not Blood and Mark. Tunon is the most even-keeled of the Archons. The others are too wild for this station. Or for his station. Fatebinder, we have nothing further to discuss. El Kairos, I'm getting better at remembering to say it. Must be honored to have the Adjudicator's confidence. Alright. I'm gonna plead Barrack's case. Fatebinder, you look as if you require my counsel. What is it you wish to know? Tell me about Kairos. Kairos is our overlord. She ushers us from the brink of chaos with a stern hand and gestures to the way of peace. We are only too eager to follow in her perfect example. How old is Kairos? By our reckoning, her age upon Terratus is magnificent. Her true span defies measurement by our limited construct of time. It would be a waste to spend our few pitiable years attempting to solve that riddle of existence. I think of Kairos not as subject to beginnings or endings. Kairos is, and Kairos will ever be. A lot of these are kind of trivial. So, like, I'm not entirely sure I want to go up to the Archon of Judgment and say, hey, do you think these laws we're working with are fair? So, what was your relationship to Kairos? She is my master, and I her dutiful pupil. In this respect, you and I are no different. I have the honor of Kairos' confidence. She trusts me to enact her law upon the boundless territory of her rule. I am only too grateful to serve. I am the voice of Kairos' will, the harbinger of her judgment, and the arm of her justice. Let me ask you about something else. Tell me more about Blood and Mark. Oh, sorry, ask, but be cautious with your time. The tears do not rest. Tell me about Blood and Mark. He is my headsman and an assassin without equal. His official designation in Kairos' hierarchy is the Archon of Shadows, though I wonder if that he ever considers himself aught but a slayer of the unjust. How did he earn his title? His work away from the court takes Bled and Mark to the dark places of the world, the Tiers and Northern Empire alike. Over time, shadows became his dominion. They cloak him, protect him, and even fight for him if the need arises. It is said that Bled and Mark can travel to any place where shadows are cast. Only he would know this for certain. Does Bled and Mark serve you alone? Your question is flawed. We are all servants of Kairos. The Archons are also the agents of their own interests, those chosen few empowered to bring order to the world in accordance with Kairos' peace. At present, Bled and Mark is my vassal, and I his patron. The relationship is not so different from Graven Ash and Cairn, the fallen Archon, or the voices of Narat and his songbird, Siren. Such partnerships and apprenticeships are common. They provide mutual benefit to the Archons involved, as well as a measure of oversight. Back to my other questions. I'm curious about you, Archon. Curiosity is not a trait that I encourage in my servants. Too often have I witnessed such activity leading down a path to lawlessness. However, if you feel that a better understanding of me will inform your work, then I will allow it. What would you like to know? Tell me about your rise to become an adjudicator. Curb your ambitions, student. My path to this dais is not one that could be replicated under any circumstances. However, if your curiosity is determined, I will tell you my story. I wish to understand law and your execution of it. An admirable pursuit. You know much of Kairos' law and the maintenance of order already. My history may tell you something of how it can be used to win wars. I came into the world centuries ago, before the dream of a unified Northern Empire was fully realized. My home country lay far from the borders of Kairos' realm, and our conquest was a matter of distant speculation. Decades before, rumor of Kairos' approach grew in panicked volume. I familiarized myself with the intricacies of her law. It took me no time at all to realize the benefits of our inevitable subjugation. I took it upon myself to rise in my country's governance as an arbiter of law and drafter of covenants, building some notoriety for my execution of fair justice. As my influence and the trust of my people evolved, my decisions transcended to define future precedent. Go on. What my countrymen could not have surmised was that I had woven into our customs the very backbone of Kairos' law. I set the stage for the conquest of our floundering nation to join the Overlord's empire. By the time the Overlord's armies presented themselves and offered terms of surrender, we had adopted Kairos' peace in all but name. Our absorption into the Northern Empire was a matter of legal formality, negligible changes to our already beloved document of law. The people credited me as architect of peace, and for a time called me Tunon the Fair. As my importance grew in their estimate, Kairos could not help but learn of the part I played in her bloodless victory. Kairos' law has a breadth of intricacies that is unapproachable to the masses. I was chosen to interpret and represent the Overlord's will across the Northern Empire and beyond, this time as adjudicator. It is my pride, my duty, my life. What does it mean to be an Archon? I'm a figure of power and significance, and under Kairos' mandate I am able to exercise my authority for the benefit of all. Had I not earned the Overlord's approval, I would not stand tall before you. Did you come into power yourself, or did Kairos foster your talents? An astute question. Doubtless I exhibited some spark of potential of my own, insignificant, though enough to accomplish deeds of note. Only under Kairos' tutelage have I grown to these heights. Can anyone become an Archon? Absolutely not. Only a precious few grow into this authority. Were it otherwise, Terratus would descend into pandemonium. Of those few who rise into power, fewer still have the self-control to make lawful use of their talents, and of those who can, fewer still are deemed worthy of Kairos' approval. Is every Archon subservient to Kairos? All are subservient before Kairos, but I intuit your meaning. The Overlord takes great pains to recognize potential. Before an Archon comes into their power, they will have faced the harshest scrutiny by an agent of recruitment, if not Bled and Mark himself. Of those who are found worthy of incredible deeds, but refuse to join their strength to the needs of the Empire, are doomed to die. Those who wish to make a name for themselves are invited into the fold to serve and rule the needs of the Empire. That is the price of power in Kairos' hierarchy. Let's go back to my questions about you. Very well, Fatebinder. What would you know of me? Did you come up with the office of Fatebinders? Indirectly, yes. Just as I am the representative of Kairos' law across Terratus, you are the face of my judgment for the people. I took inspiration from the Overlord's example, as we all should. The people need an approachable face to settle their grievances, and I am not available to adjudicate on every sharecropper's dispute. Fatebinders were an inevitable solution. Why is curiosity such a problem? Because my vassals are not selected for their independence of thought. You are an agent of law, the execution of which falls within strict confines. Excuse me. Your intellect may aid in the tasks ahead of you, but your unwavering obedience is of greater value to me. Don't you want me to interpret Kairos' laws to fit any circumstance? Naturally, but take care not to let your intellect veer you from the straightforward path. I've seen it happen, and lost more than one pupil who thought themselves above their station, convinced that they knew better. What happened to those pupils? Anyone who oversteps their bounds is given the opportunity to amend their ways. Those who fail to heed my warnings show contempt for Kairos' peace and are treated accordingly. The purpose of law is to set the standard for others. Though I am generous with the freedom I offer to Fatebinders, you are still inextricably tied to Kairos' law. Straining that tether to a breaking point will reflect poorly upon you. Back to my previous questions. What would you know? I wish to speak about matters of law. Then you are well situated, for my court is the legal heart of this corrupt and uncivilized realm. What matters draw your curiosity? You are already well versed in Kairos' laws, but I am happy to discuss the particulars. Evening, Vanguard Master. I saw your screenshots, by the way. Congratulations. I wish to discuss Kairos' peace. The cornerstone of our wartime efforts, of course. Peace guarantees all willing supplicants under the Overlord's authority a place in her world. The exact wording of the bylaw is, your life is not yours to discard. The Overlord has plans for you. Oh, actually. I want to write these down. Give me 1 minute. Sorry, I just dropped my headphones straight on the mic. All right. So, cross. Peace. Your life is not yours to discard. The Overlord has plans for you. This extends to several spheres of influence. Among others, it grants protection to enemies who surrender in a time of war, and it forbids suicide. To dispense with the Overlord's vassal and property is prohibited. Remind me how the Overlord's name may be used. It is not forbidden to cross one's tongue with Kairos' name, but it behooves one to use caution and respect. The Overlord's name is not yours to give, whether to progeny, product, location, or abstraction. Slander is punishable by death. There's only one Kairos, and her name is safeguarded. No one may say Kairos and have it obfuscated by a second meaning. Neither will her name be associated to trivialities. A gambler will not attribute his fortune to Kairos' luck or his misfortune to Kairos' scorn. Such an association lowers the overlord in the public estimate and is rightly considered slander most foul. Let us discuss the old walls. The old walls are forbidden, and their contents, as are their contents and their denizens. Owning an item from the old walls is considered trespass, regardless of how it came into your possession. Mind that in the course of your travels. As the old walls extend across much of the tiers in the Northern Empire alike, Kairos permits her servants to pass only where she has sculpted the landscape to permit traverse. Under no circumstances are you to enter a breach in the old walls, even for a task as innocent as crossing to the other side. If these restrictions seem too severe, I would remind you that they are there for the protection of Kairos' subjects. The Overlord has no desire to see harm needlessly inflicted upon her loyal followers. Remind me of the magician's folly. Practitioners of the arcane arts must be sanctioned by one of Kairos' guilds, such as the blood chanters or the forge-bound. Rogue magicians with a tenuous grasp of unknown powers will not be tolerated. A sanctioned mage whose spell casting causes damage to life or property is lawfully deemed innocent. As long as they practice their art in the service of Kairos, all is forgiven. Let us speak of quotas and sharing. The harvest blooms and blights by the will of Kairos. In times of lean you will be fed. In times of wealth you will feed others. The law is a sizable category unto itself, serving many needs at once, trade and tax being only two examples. The broadest intent of the law is to empower Kairos' subjects to care for their neighbor and expect care in return. You might take note of the law's application to trade. A merchant's right to peddle their wares is defined by permits granted annually. The regional authority has the right to decide if a merchant sells cabbage one year and sandals the next. Anyone breaking through the restrictions is subject to immediate forfeiture of all assets. You need not concern yourself over the nuances. At least until they apply to this contested realm in a time of peace. I'm curious about the restriction on forbidden knowledge. Kairos herself sets the standards of what can and cannot be known. These restrictions are rarely enforced, but they are worth taking into account. During the war, for example, Kairos deemed knowledge of the Vellum Citadel taboo. No one may possess the wisdom of that fallen repository, save Kairos herself. Calling it taboo seems like overkill, but to play Kairos' advocate, the world would hardly be safer if all had access to the lore of making poisons or the art of arming brigands in fine bronze. This is for the protection of her subjects. Before the coming of Kairos, during the ages of anarchy and discord, powerful knowledge in undeserving hands leveled empires without thought or mercy. Kairos has no desire to revisit those dark times. This might get me in trouble, but am I beholden to these laws? That should not be in question. We are all subjects of Kairos. Her laws define and regulate our very way of life. With that said, as an agent of law, you are granted more leeway than a soldier or a citizen. You may find yourself compelled to commit morally questionable acts in the name of Kairos. If it serves the court's justice, much may be forgiven. If the court finds any of your actions suspect, we will summon you to answer for yourself. Your testimony will be heard and judgment rendered. You are exceedingly curious about the applications of Kairos' law. I find it refreshing that you would seek my counsel, Fatebinder. Back to my previous questions. You wish to discuss common matters? Very well. I have a request from Beric of the Stone Shields. And what does Beric of the Stone Shields want of the court? He has made his displeasure known in a loud enough voice to collapse the tiers upon each other. The adjudicator glares down at Beric. He came to inquire if the Forgebound could help remove his armor. If he has become encased in iron, that is none of the court's concern. My Forgebound smiths are occupied crafting weapons for the army, and I would not have their focus diverted to liberate one soldier from his raiment. Stone Shield, do the disfavored not have standards for the upkeep of arms and armor? Is this not one of your Archon's guiding principles? It is, Your Honor, but I find myself trapped in this junk pile after the Edict of Storms hit Stalwart. If you want to blame anyone, it should be Kairos. Oh, bad call, Beric. The adjudicator contemplates the matter in total silence. The moment drags on far longer than you would have suspected warrants, but Tunon's interest does not abate for a moment. The soldier will remain encased in his armor, eccentric though it may be, and all subjects of Kairos are forbidden to aid in its removal. Magic, the likes of which none he understand has touched. Magic, the likes of which none of us understand, has touched the Stone Shield, and we will not interfere with the will of Kairos. But I'm trapped. Beric trails off, looking to you for answers. Say nothing. Such is the will of Kairos and the will of the court. Tunon nods and bangs his gavel. Ugh, you tried, and I suppose that counts for something. The adjudicator didn't say anything about me bending my way out of here, at least. Not that trying has ever made it any better. No more questions. Then be on your way. Tunon ruled that Beric is to remain in his armor and forbade citizens of Kairos' dominion from helping him remove it. Perhaps you should discuss Beric's predicament with him. Only the slightest nod of Beric's domed helm offers any indication that the soldier noticed your approach. Didn't turn out like you hoped, did it? On the contrary, I expected little else from the court. The Archon's decision changes nothing. I have persevered to this point. I shall continue to do so, for the sake of General Ash in the north. There may be another way. Your master is very specific in his sentence. He forbade me not only assistance from the Forgebound, but from anyone anywhere in the world. The Archon forbade any subject of Kairos to aid you. You split hairs, Binder. The whole world bends the knee to the Overlord. If that were the case, we wouldn't be in the tiers, would we? You're not suggesting we ask some renegade mage for aid. You would discard the spirit of the law in favor of its letter? Perhaps some other way to free you will present itself. Your optimism does you credit, Fatebinder, though I fear it misapplied. The Forgebound will be curious about you regardless. The articulation of your armor is incredible, and at the very least we should be able to let them look at you, or take a look at you. My armor is unique. Perhaps it can teach them something that will aid the disfavored. We can find the Forgebound at their smithy in Lethian's Crossing. He nods. Let us leave, Fatebinder. I worry that my presence offends these nobles' precious sensibilities. He bows his head to you and moves away, trailing behind him the wafting reek of a fetid privy. Welcome back, kid. Amusing as it would have been to watch the edict drop, I guess I'm glad you lived. Bleden Mark, Archon of Shadows, rouses from faraway stare, turning to face you with a wry smile. Though he stands still, he seems to sift in and out of the shadows that shroud him. Here you threw your rings on Graven Ash's side. Not a bad bet to pick the Archon of War. But tell me the truth. Did you go with Ash because he seemed like the right thing to do, or because supporting the Voices was the worse option? Neither Archon was at their best, but Graven Ash was the more capable warlord. The disfavored are nothing if not blindly devoted to their general, and though few in number, they are surprisingly difficult to kill. I don't have to like it to understand it. We both have our ways of turning the tides of war. All that matters is that the Edict of Execution was stayed. Those stations at Vendrian's Well should be thanking you for their lives. Now I assume you're off to go meet Ash, but first, you and I need to have a little chat. I'm listening. Everyone's keeping an eye on you, because you did something no one has done before. Got a guess as to what that might be? So, first Fatebinder to engage a war against an allied soldiers, first Fatebinder to proclaim 2 edicts, and the first to resolve an edict before its consequences came to pass, first Fatebinder to awaken a spire in the old walls, first to take an evasive stance towards your rhetorical questions, or first Fatebinder Kairos has decided to promote to some position of authority, and the first Fatebinder to proclaim 2 edicts. Smart guess, but there have been a few others over the centuries who have outlived the honor of proclamation twice. But sure, it's true that most don't survive it. Proclaiming an edict isn't new, neither is surviving or resolving the commandments of an edict, but you're the first to proclaim and resolve the very same edict, and it didn't kill you. In one fell swoop, you survived your second edict, resolved the very one you had proclaimed, and woke an arcane structure that had slept for several centuries. So why are you telling me this? Did I do something wrong? Calm down, kid. This isn't a list of charges. He thumbs the blade of his dagger and grins. Prosecution isn't part of my job description. Executing a judgment, well, that's another matter. I don't care what you do with the information, but you should know the danger you're in now that you've put yourself on the map. Sticking with the disfavored is a smart idea, kid. At least smarter than getting mixed up with the Archon of Secrets. You'll never really be one of them, but if you value Ash's warriors, they'll serve you the best that they can. There's still so much I want to ask you. Not now. Try me somewhere with fewer prying eyes and listening ears. Thanks for the advice. The Archon of Shadows shrugs to you in farewell, but his golden eyes are alight with interest as he watches you. All right. So, the weight of Aegis. Without the age of Forgebound, there's no way to help Barrack. Search for a specialized smith that would not be opposed to disobeying Kairos' law. With wealth and influence, you may be able to hire a loyal smith and provide them with a forge at which to work. An awakened spire might make the perfect location for the smithy. And we are now on our way to Iron Hearth. Iron Hearth. This massive fortress is perched atop the edge of a tier that helps form the Bladegrave's northern border. Graven Ash took the ancient castle during the conquest, and now launches all disfavored operations from this well-defended location. 2 days, 12 hours, 15 minutes travel. It will take you 2 days, 12 hours, 15 minutes to complete your journey from Tunon's Court to Iron Hearth. No events in between, it seems. Okay, tell you what, we're almost at the 1 hour mark, so we're actually a little past it. So I'm going to take a small break. I think I might try to make some tea, but if nothing else, I just want to refill my water and such. So I'll still leave you with the music and such. But I do just need to put up the break signs in that, and I'll try to keep it as short as I can, but not shorter than what I can. Like, I want to make sure I get all my stuff. But But yeah, I won't delay. But I'll be back as soon as I can. Now would be a good time to get up, stretch, take care of yourself, and I'll see you on the other side of the break. All right, hello everybody. Really sorry about the time that took. I set a timer just to make sure that if things took too long, I'd get a little warning, and it didn't seem to go off. Or at the very least, I was doing something that got in the way of its proper functioning. So, yeah, I got no good excuses. It just happened. So, sorry, one more second here. All right, so our goal here, just in case you've forgotten over the last couple of minutes, or maybe more for my benefit, for heaven's sake, we are doing Into the Maelstrom. We are going to specifically want to talk to Graven Ash. But I believe this is also our first chance to see
I got it.
the Edict of Storms. Voices of Narat will fall before long. I hope we fall in this blighted country. I hope the North... should we fall in this blighted country, I hope the North remembers us. To serve Graven Ash is the highest honor. Graven Ash will bring order to this savage realm. I know it. The disfavored soldier chuckles with disdain at his Scarlet Chorus fighter. Consider it, not for a second. We pick our soldiers from the elite northern families. We don't recruit from flies buzzing over a mass grave. Are the disfavored so narrow-minded? My gang's strength delivered us across half a dozen battles with a line of fallen enemies in our wake. Not many conscripts can say the same. The question is not a matter of your skill, but of your breeding, your training, your pedigree. Noticing you, the Iron Guard salutes. Hail Graven Ash, Fatebinder. If I might take a moment of your time. What do you need? This person comes representing a Scarlet Chorus gang. What did you call yourselves again? The Grinning Bleeders. We have a long and storied reputation in the Scarlet Chorus ranks. Killers of the highest order, my gang. He puffs up his chest with pride. Before I was boss there, I ran with the Broken Shits, the Salty Nightmares, and the Trap Gang. Every one made a name for themselves during the war. You made up at least two of those gangs, and don't even bother denying it. Just be careful what names you toss around when there's a former boss standing within earshot, you little pissant. One of his eyebrows snaps at attention. First, so kind of you to chime in with your corrections. In any case, he's asking to join the disfavored, which is out of the question. I've explained the numerous reasons why we can't allow it, but the wretch won't listen. Is that accurate? It is. We're not looking for special treatment, just a new beginning. Seeing as we're healthy, fit, and combat-ready, the Ironclads should have no reason to refuse us, he sniffs, especially since they're low on numbers. That may be true, but it's still no excuse to pollute our respectable ranks with your company. We're more than capable. Put any weapon in our hands or send us on any suicide mission. It'll be mercy compared to what we've faced under the Voices of Narat. That much is true, at least. There's something to be said for a general who isn't going to gut you in your sleep because it salutes his flair for the artistic. Those are the first fair words I've heard you speak about General Ash. Perhaps you're coming around. Then you can count on them being the last, you overfull midden pile. If we joined up, the disfavored wouldn't have to compromise their staunch northern morals. We could take the bloody work off their hands. Do you want me to decide the matter? You must know Kairos' laws back to front, and I trust you to know our traditions as well. If it peels this lamprey off my backside, I'll allow it. Speaking for my gang, we'll accept your judgment. We're eager to crack some Tearsman skulls with Kairos' army again, no matter what color they wear. Let me take your testimony first. Of course, I have nothing to hide. Why can't the recruits join the disfavored? Most of us would rather swallow our tongues than take orders from some rigid officer who talked his way into leadership, but to each their own. Where do I start? Not only does Graven Ash handpick his disfavored from the decorated northern stock, he takes a personal interest in our training and education. We are his sons and daughters. To accept anything less in our ranks would hold the very process in contempt. The only capacity they would serve would be manual labor, hauling wagons or digging latrines, but that's the work of slaves, and not what they've come requesting. Why this interest in the disfavored? Better training, better quarters, iron weapons. The disfavored have everything we wanted out of joining the military. We want to serve Kairos to the best of our abilities. Is that asking too much? Old Ironclad here seems to think so. The respect for command leaves something to be desired. Why did you leave the Scarlet Chorus? Our gang boss fell in the last battle of Vendrian's Well. We saw how the disfavored operated and realized it was our chance for a better life. A longer one, too. Desertion happens every day in the Scarlet Chorus. I can tell you we won't be missed. He says that like he's boasting. Only the shitheel recruits who never made a name for themselves are overlooked at muster. I'm ready to make my ruling. Good. Whatever's fair, we're prepared to stand by it. So, abandon your duties. Execution is the only recourse. You are no longer in the military. Go live civilians' lives and keep Kairos' peace as best you can. Consign you to hard labor, hauling wagons, digging latrines. I'm curious. So I've got some thoughts on this, but does chat have any feelings? So in case it wasn't obvious, we've got you abandon your duties. Execution is the only recourse. You are no longer in the military. Go live civilian lives and keep Kairos' peace as best you can. I consign you to hard labor, hauling wagons and digging latrines. On second thoughts, allow me to consider my questions. And I need time to consider. You believe in free labor? Yeah. So I'm personally switching between the two. So in the case of Abandoned... So, like, I guess one of the things is that I believe this game does actually allow you to be a hard ass. I mean, like, I'm happy that there's no circumstance under which you'll say, you know, okay, yeah, welcome to the disfavored. And so I'm sort of left with this idea here of these people being left... are basically these people being brought into broader society and expecting that they will keep Kairos' peace. And it's like, okay, well, fair enough. There's that idea that, anyone can sort of find their place in society. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that they, like, the hard labor, hauling wagons, digging latrines, is actually more consistent with what they were asking for. It's just that they don't get the glory associated with it. So there's something a little poetic with the hard labor answer. But yeah, execution seems too much, and I would never, under any circumstances, consider incorporating them into the disfavored, but that wasn't an option. So I consign you to hard labor, hauling wagons, digging latrines. But that's a waste of our talent. We could have shed so much blood for the disfavored. I agree, it's a waste, but these fools should have known better than to turn code. It always bites you in the ass eventually. Horde maggot, you occupy space and eat our food. Don't presume to complain about your treatment. Fatebinder, I thank you. We could all learn from your practical, calculating approach. Hard labor it is, then. Believe it or not, I can think of worse.
I'd say that's worth a second glance.
Interesting. This might be a good one to give Lantry. I'm cooking stew for the other troops. It's mostly leeks and marrow. The enemies of Kairos will feel the unforgiving sting of disfavored iron. They didn't have a life before the Legion. Greetings, Fatebinder. Akalos, 32nd Legion, the soldier salutes. Glad to see Tunon's Agent Grace Ironhearth. Ash's troop has no lack of order, but a servant of the court is always welcome. Between our missing commanders and a Scarlet Chorus lieutenant pinned down, I'm afraid we have our hands full. I suppose I can spare a moment for conversation. Do you need something from me? Tell me about the Scarlet Chorus lieutenant. It seems our troop have this little maggot of a Scarlet Chorus lieutenant cornered over at Cadio Village. From what I'm hearing, it's the same guy who's been ransacking our caravans the past few weeks. If I wasn't already handling something for Ash, I'd go and skin the filth myself. You being here simplifies matters. Make sure this lieutenant doesn't leave the village with his life. I will handle it. Good of you to pitch in. No one will mourn the loss of one more chorus rat. He marks the location on your map. I have questions before I go. Not a problem. What do you need? Naturally, you have my undivided attention. Where were you during the conquest? You could say I've seen the tiers from top to bottom. I dug latrines at our encampment at the Gates of Judgment, then my promotion sent me to Lethian's Crossing. Got a few rows with the Bronze Brotherhood. Not a pretty sight. Got into a few rows with the Bronze Brotherhood. Not a pretty sight. Then I had a brief deployment in Apex, but the fighting was winding down around when I arrived. After that, I did a tour in Stalwart, but got transferred out before the edict tore everything apart. Tell me about your home in the north. I hail from Balmuel, a small hamlet far west of Kairos' capital. It's nothing glorious, but I can trace 6 generations back there, so it's home. I hope to return there someday with a heap of tales, rings, and renown. Once Graven Ash gave me his favor and recruited me to join the army, my family went from respectable farmers to elite folk, better regarded or respected than damn near anyone. They must be doing well for themselves. How did you join the disfavored? Ahead of the conquest, Graven Ash sent recruiters to all outlying towns, looking for worthy talent. The village held a tourney and melee to demonstrate our local muscle. Nothing fancy, mind you. It was mostly fighting on hay bales with wooden spears. I had the distinction of toppling even the biggest contender. A familiar tale, and one after my own heart. Beric nods with respect. It's a good thing I succeeded. I'm more useful to Kairos on the field of battle than on a field of wheat. Iron Hearth is a bastion of discipline that we carved out of chaos. Stall contains spoils acquired on the battlefield, all of it neatly labeled and organized. Don't mind my prisoner. Kind of you to stop and chat. I'm in a sticky situation. No one in my gang is alive or around to help me out. Stop wasting the Fatebinder's time. He has better things to do than listen to some criminal's mewling. I'll be the judge of that. Tell me your problem, soldier. Thanks for hearing me out. The disfavored aren't keen on conversation. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. It's impossible to get a word in edgewise. She glares at her captor. Soldiers caught me outside a breach in the old walls. That's it. Wasn't inside, hadn't stuck my toe through the threshold, wasn't dancing with any bane. I have a healthy relationship with self-preservation. Then why were you arrested? You're only hearing one side of the story, Fatebinder. Our scouts observed this wretch readying to enter the old walls. Her account is flawed, her guilt witnessed by multiple trustworthy northerners. Soldier makes a point of standing extra straight when he addresses you. I'm sorry, is readying to enter the best you have? Because I could just as easily argue that you're readying to get knife between your shoulder blades, but it doesn't count for shit until I see blood and bronze. I didn't go into the old walls. Case closed. Before I adjudicate on this matter, I need your mutual cooperation. If you ask me, the prisoner has already been tried and sentenced, but if this little game will silence her caterwauling, then be my guest. I'll stand by your decision. Couldn't land me anywhere worse than this. What were you doing outside the old walls? A gang went inside. As I tried to tell the disfavored, clods 100 times over. I shouted myself raw until trying to get them back out, but the gang was having none of it. Our leader discovered the breach and got himself excited over the chance of finding treasure. Try as I might, I couldn't talk him out of it. Soldier, can you speak to this defense? Wasn't there, of course, but I'm familiar with the arrest record. There was no gang, just a lone opportunist out to make her fortune breaking Kairos' laws. The scouts could tell you just by looking at her that she was headed for the breach. She's a fiery one, put up quite a fight when they took her into custody. I have no reason to doubt the charges. So you had no interest in entering the old walls? Never. I grew up in the tiers. Even we knew better than to go inside the old walls, if not because of Kairos' law, because of the things lurking inside were like to eat us. Whatever you can find in the shadow of those ruins, it's not worth the risk. What was your gang doing in the old walls? Causing trouble, looting, no more or less than what gangs do. Our boss was obsessed with holding his position, which is healthy when you're in the Scarlet Chorus. When he came to the conclusion that the old walls might have some powerful artifacts, he resolved himself to find one at all costs. Funny to see a guy so wrapped up in survival trying to get himself killed. Typical behavior of someone who isn't confident in their leadership. Makes for a nice self-fulfilling prophecy when their own gang takes them down. See, she understands. Foxtrick bows to verse. Any idea where your gang is now? I never saw them make it out of the old walls, so either they did or they didn't. My money's on the latter. If they made it out, they aren't wasting their breath trying to find me, so fuck 'em. I like the attitude. If I had a mind to recruit, she would be my second or third. Did your gang cause the breach in the old walls? What, are you kidding me? It would take either incredible force or incredible magic to bash through that ancient barrier. We had neither at our disposal. Either one of Kairos' edicts or some local mage caused the breach. Whatever ruling you make, don't pin that on me. I'm inclined to agree. Don't make the mistake of giving this one too much credit. I'm ready to make my judgment. Let's have it then. I hope you got everything you needed. So, I don't trust your testimony. I find you guilty. If you weren't in the old walls, you weren't in the old walls. I rule in your favor. Sorry. At the very least, the evidence is insufficient to prove the charges. You're free to go, or on second thought. So, out of all of these, I'd say, like, so I don't feel... the intent is there, for sure, but they didn't actually do the crime. And I do like the idea of being able to boost my lore, so... At the very least, the evidence is insufficient to prove the charges. You're free to go. Shrewd, Fatebinder. Very shrewd. I think you'll do just fine. Legal technicalities are my favorite kind. Go rejoin the war effort with a new gang recruit. Start your own if you have a mind to. That's an order. Yes, ma'am. If you were gathering a force, I'd kill my way into your good graces. Pity I have to settle for less. This goes against my orders and my reason, but I cannot argue with the ruling of Tunon's agent. I'll let you go. Try and stay out of trouble. I'll stay out of the old walls, but that's all I can promise. You would bring a spy from the voices here? I've been guarding this portcullis since we took Iron Hearth from its defenders. This dog tips its head in a quizzical, expectant manner. Sometimes I get dizzy. Fire feels good.
Would you take a look at that?
By my honor, we will inflict the glory of the North on this lawless land. You must be the Fatebinder of Tunon, the disfavored Ironwalker bows. Welcome to Iron Hearth. I'm sure that Graven Ash appreciates any help you can offer. Circumstances have a way of coming together so that the disfavored are always stretched thinner than we would like. What can I do for you? Why are the disfavored so overworked? She rubs her palms together and frowns. We're trying to shoulder the brunt of this civil war without the strength of numbers. The Scarlet Chorus can throw 1,000 disposable bodies at an issue without a second thought, but we're forced to be a little more discriminating. We might be trained to deal with the stress of combat and all-night drills, but we're fatigued even by the high standard we set for ourselves. She studies you in a cautious manner. Not that I need to burden any agent of the court with my misgivings. Once the war is over and the tears are properly subdued, my hope is that Kairos dispatches some relief troops to support the occupation. We deserve a season of rest. I hope you fight as well as you complain, soldier. Sorry, just 1 second. The court is always receptive to the needs of soldiers. Your point is noted. That's very generous of you to say, Fatebinder. I'm grateful to know someone is listening. A nervous smile brightens at her expression. Where were you during the conquest? After the Edict of Storms hit, I spent some time among the ruins of Stalwart, digging out survivors from the Legion. Afraid I didn't find much. She glances up at Barrick. You must have moved on by then, or else we would have assembled a team to excavate you. My prison moved with me. There's no reason to tarry. He bows his head respectfully. I still think about the brothers and sisters we left behind. Sometimes I can imagine that I hear their voices carry on the wind. I'll be on my way. I dream of past battles. The tactics change, but the results are always the same. The production of new potions isn't keeping up with demand. Many of these bottles remain empty. Even though you're not a fully fledged disfavored recruit, I've been authorized to grant you purchasing rights from our store, within certain limits, of course. What would you like to see what I have to offer? What limits are those? It's nothing personal, I assure you. Graven Ash wants us to control our supplies without restricting access to his army's supporters like yourself. The finest arms and freshest provisions are reserved for the soldiers under his direct command. I'm sure you understand. The Archon takes our protection very seriously. Understood. Let's see what you can offer me. So I probably want to sell more than anything. Problem is, it isn't entirely clear to me what of these will be crafting materials and which of these will come up later. Soldier hums a northern lullaby to herself. Bloodchanter magic took my eyes, so I don't fight as well as I used to. So it's interesting. It seems like this little training area here, I don't actually have any access to. Okay, so I wanted to get some intel. The idea, this has kind of come up a couple times during the playthrough, but essentially the idea that I've been running with is that I want to get as much intel as I can in terms of any of the I mean, so one, it's a it's a CRPG, so I'm gonna want to just interact with all the characters anyway. But the idea here is that I want to try and get as much information as I can prior to taking the major action. Voices of Nerat will fall before long. The enemies of Kairos will feel the unforgiving sting of disfavored iron. Would that this war were over, the Legion restored to the north. Hail, Barrack of the Stone Shields. My life for the Legion. I kill for Graven Ash. I'd happily die for him. How else can we subdue this lawless frontier but through slaughter? These reports list all known Scarlet Chorus outposts and strongholds as well as troop compositions. It's safe to assume that Graven Ash has his own eyes and ears within the ranks of his enemies. Tearsmen are fools to deny Kairos' peace. Gladly lay my life down for the north. Graven Ash protects. I know how this must look, but I'm not hiding. Fatebinder, it's good of you to report in. These days it's difficult enough to judge friend from foe. I'm pleased to recognize you as the former of the two. Ash favors you with a curt nod. I see you've brought the voices of Nerat's spying whore to my doorstep. Lest you think me amused by your irresponsible conduct, know that I am not. Versus a useful ally, I need her on my side. At least until we get tired of each other. Don't worry, old man, I'm not going to drive a blade through your spine. Not while you're wearing a breastplate as thick as the old walls, anyway. Graven Ash glares at Verse and returns his severe expression back to you. His mouth is set to a disapproving line, and he seems to be on the brink of saying more, but waves off the matter. After what transpired at Vendrian's Well, the disfavored must hold fast to our allies. You are here because your support at the siege, but I don't mistake your confidence for devotion. The Scarlet Chorus would not have you. Tunon is my master, and he stands above your petty squabbles. If he stood above them, then he could see well enough how the voices of Nerat has conspired against our forces since the beginning. No, for all his claims of objectivity, I have my suspicions that your adjudicator is as compromised by this war as any of us. What is it that you require? We have a realm to conquer in the name of Kairos. What's our next move? Glory to the Overlord, he shouts, and the breastplates of the surrounding disfavored rattle with their salutes. With the voices of Nerat's betrayal of our cause, our mission to control this forsaken peninsula has become all the more dire. We had thought the Vendrian Guard were the final death rattle of the region's defiance. We were wrong. The tears have risen up against Kairos, emboldened by our countrymen. And while the disfavored labor to maintain order, that serpent, the voices of Nerat, grows his army of lunatics and sellswords, preparing to lash out where we least suspect it. I can only imagine that the voices is driving his gangs mad with plots to storm this fortress. There can be no peace while the voices of Nerat lives, and no order while the Scarlet Chorus rampage across these lands. The elimination of chaos must be our first priority. Then we will have time to govern the tiers as Kairos intended. Can I depend upon your support against this scourge? Tell me more about the tiers uprising. I try not to bother myself with the details. These objectors will be dealt with and forgotten soon enough. I know of the Unbroken, the group of former stalwart miscreants that rose in the Blade Grave, arming themselves with a misguided sense of national pride. Beyond them, the dissident elements of the fallen realm interest me little. What would you have me do? Our position of authority in the Blade Grave is far from secure. We need to establish ourselves in the region in order to cultivate our strength for the battle to come. As soon as I am confident in our chances, we will depart this realm and wipe the Chorus threat from the face of Terratus. The Unbroken, former daughters and sons of Stalwart, vex our efforts to secure this region. The Edict of Storms offers them cover. They slip past our patrols in the light of day, hiding their movements behind clouds of dust and debris. Kairos cast this blight on the country to set an example, not to plague those of us loyal to the north. You must travel to Sentinel Stand and seek out Stradius Herodin. He is the last of an old stalwart bloodline who have called themselves regents. Put him to the sword and end this edict once and for all. Who is Stradius Herodin? The last of an elder bloodline that ruled Stalwart and maintained its dignity. He's also a filthy coward. During the last battle of Stalwart, he crouched behind the walls of Sentinel Stand Keep and refused to meet our forces on the field of battle. Why is he so important to the edict? He would neither surrender nor impel his soldiers to do so. As such, Kairos decreed that storms would ravage the country until the regent was dead. Stradius Herodin was free to kill himself, of course, but he was either too proud or too gutless for the task. Why has no one killed Herodin yet? Because he persists in crouching behind the walls of Sentinel Stand. With the Edict of Storms raging about the Citadel, no one has been able to enter or exit since the last year of the conquest. No bird or missive has left the Windwall either. The edict is all the proof we have that Herodin still lives. Tell me of the Edict of Storms. Kairos visited this plague upon the people of Stalwart to punish their leader's cowardice. We had thought the edict would have been dispelled long ago, but to our dismay it endures. The rust and debris filling the air is a source of constant irritation and hampers our ability to conduct this war on our terms. You should consider the subjugation of Stalwart and the ending of the edict tasks of equal importance. Thankfully, your goals are well matched. The persistence of the edict is tied to Herodin's bloodline. Kairos decreed that the storms will continue until the last of the regents is slain, and the regents to end the edict and return to me victorious. I understand what must be done. I'll make for the Blade Grave at once. Find the last regent, kill him, end this Edict of Storms, and staunch this seeping wound of rebellion once and for all. The downfall of the Unbroken and the old regent will send a message throughout the tiers. Our rule is absolute, and dissidents will not be tolerated. I will travel to Sentinel Stand and judge by my findings. Interesting. If your perspective is as lawful and orderly as it ought to be, the right path should seem clear. The Unbroken must be destroyed, and the edict must end. Should you arrive at any other conclusion, I suggest you stifle your opinion and follow orders like any good soldier. There's one final matter to discuss. My daughter went missing in the second year of the conquest. I have reason to believe she is trapped in the fortress of Sentinel Stand. If you can find Amelia, bring her home to me. How do you know she's in Sentinel Stand? It is the one location in all of Stalwart we cannot reach. If her detachment of soldiers was taken captive, she would have been placed beyond my power, no doubt for the southern wretches to use for negotiation. His expression twists with distaste. Tell me about Amelia. She has her father's stubborn persistence. She's an excellent fighter, though more brazen and eager to test herself on the field of battle. I have objected to this disposition in the past, but it seems as integral to her being as the very breath she draws. Our relationship has endured its challenges. The last several years, I have been a better general to her than a father. Once the war is over and she is restored to the Legion, I hope we can find it in ourselves to know each other once more. What makes you think she's still alive? We've traveled together through this fallen, corrupt land. You are no doubt aware of the aegis I extend to my troops. It is a boon I grant to my northerners for loyal service and devotion to our shared cause. As my army feels my guardianship, I am keenly aware of them in turn, their concern, their pain. It is my burden to carry as their leader. Amelia is alive. I have awoken at night in cold sweats, my bile rising with violence. What torment she suffers at the hands of those stalwart animals is a mystery. I only want her restored to heal in the company of the Legion. I'll find her. I'll ensure her safe return. That is all I ask. Amelia is but one soldier, yet if I had the forces to dispatch, I would make her retrieval my highest priority. She is a commander of the highest renown and a paragon of northern values. Fatebinder, I offer you my support on this mission. The Blade Grave is a place of memory. I have left many cohorts buried among the ruins, and no small part of myself as well. Could you elaborate? The matter is a sensitive one, but I fear to speak it in the company of the great general, though he doubtless knows it already. Beric attempts to stand tall before Graven Ash. Speak on, son of Baraconan. Nothing I've seen you accomplish in the field has diminished you in my eyes, and I know my soldiers as well as I know myself. Ash nods with approval. I lost countrymen by the hundreds in the last days of the Stalwart campaign, and for my troubles I became fused in this armor. The Blade Grave is the last place I ever felt human. That is all I will say about it for now. The last battle of Stalwart was a terrible time, perhaps most of all for you who survived. I mourn those we lost and recite their names often during the morning drills. We cannot restore their broken bodies to the north, but we can remember them as they were. Is that all? Your manner has changed. Beric stands straighter, and for a moment you can't tell if he's going to lash out or crumple onto himself. You are prepared for anything. After a long pause, his shoulders sag the slightest bit. My cohort marched on Sentinel's stand to complete a mission. We failed. The walls of the keep defied us, and the last regent of Stalwart refused to meet us in battle. The coming of Kairos' edict cut us off from our objective. Because of this, the Blade Grave is also a place of regret. You have much invested in this mission. Of course you can accompany me. I appreciate that, Fatebinder. Graven Ash is attentive and understanding to each of his troops, and it pleases me to see his example in you. And in you, Armored One. Never forget that I found you at the mere germination of your potential, and you have accomplished much in the ensuing years. Thank you, General. Though it's impossible to tell through his helmet, you assume that Beric is blushing. Your map is already marked with the position of Sentinel's stand. It would take me 100 lifetimes to forget those old walls, or the day the edict shattered our advance. I have further questions for the Archon of War. Ask, Fatebinder. Take care with your time. The Unbroken crawl over this territory like ants, unchecked by our northern boot. I want to know more about the Disfavored. We are more than a mere army. I ensure that the Disfavored Legion represent everything we hold dear in the North. Rigid discipline, training to perfection, respect for law, and the importance of family. As conquerors, it is our duty to teach the savage lands not just how to live up to the values the Empire sets, but how to live for them. What is the Legion's history? As Kairos conquered the North under a single banner, there were those of us who resisted the call to unification. I was a young warlord at the time, petulant and inflated by pride. I rallied the sons and daughters of the North to stand against Kairos. Our offensive was valiant. We planted our shield wall between the armies of Kairos and our homeland, declaring that no tyrants should dare cross us. We actually stood against the Overlord. Unbelievable as it may seem in retrospect, that is so. At the time, I thought it the only available option. Bending the knee to a foreign power was not a prospect I could audience easily. Our name suggests the army has a blemished history, but our uprising in defense of the North is a source of pride. Would that I could have stood in your shield wall, General. You were there in essence, my champion. The bloodline of Baraconan reaches into the deepest annals of northern lore, or else you would not count yourself among my beloved soldiers. Ash inclines his head towards Beric with reverence. We held our ground for a time, drawing the attention of others who would add their strength to ours. Every victory was discussed and celebrated by other warring factions that refused to submit. As you have witnessed, none can stand against Kairos. Eventually my legion shattered against the relentless onslaught of the Archons and soldiers. They brought me in chains before Tunon. He told me that enemies of Kairos would all be put to the sword unless I took the one opportunity to surrender and join the fold. What did you do? I made the most difficult choice of my career. A defiant heart still beat under my breastplate, and the blood of the North coursed through my veins. Yet we were beaten all the same. Out of loyalty and love for my countrymen, I swallowed my pride and bent the knee, offering my sword and my life to the Empire. My army was granted the rights of Kairos' peace, and we lived on as servants of the Overlord. Since we had transgressed and rebelled against the offering of Kairos' protection, my elite legion was stripped of their decorated name and dubbed disfavored, a mocking reminder of our past crimes. Even as we stand above all others in the ways of war, we struggle to earn back Kairos' favor. Every soldier in my legion is descended from those who stood with me during the rebellion. I keep them close to me because they were the finest northern stock, and their continued lineage is a reminder of Kairos' mercy. That goes for you as well, child of the North. By your unwavering loyalty and respect for your heritage, you are beloved in my eyes. He nods at Barrick. Disgusting. I hope you don't expect me to listen to this sentimental drivel much longer. You sound jealous, Verse. Maybe you just don't know how it feels to be favored by an Archon. Nor would I want to. If the Voices of Narat takes an interest in you, that's one step closer to having your skin flayed and sewn into his tent. Tell me of the units. Most of the Legion is made up of stone shields. They are the bricks in our shield wall. The Iron Walkers are trained and efficient killers who branch out from behind the phalanx to fight among the enemy ranks. Crescent Runners are the fleet-footed light infantry who bait the enemy into premature attack. The Oathbound are specialized scouts and advanced infantry. But then there are the Iron Guard, tempered in the forge of war, armored to survive any blow, and commanders of surpassing skill. The only other units are my Earthshakers, the former majors of Cairn, who command avalanches and harness nature's fury to our ends. You regard the Southerners with great severity. The South has squatted in willful ignorance of Kairos' superiority for so long that they don't deserve my respect. As the rest of the Empire coalesced into a united shared culture, the Tearsmen prided themselves as distinct. We looked on them from afar with nothing but scorn. All that I see in the Tears confirms my bias. There is lawlessness, neglect, corruption, infighting. Everything the vaunted North has disposed of through superior breeding and culture. You don't see that as contradictory. You stood up after Kairos, after all. I knew that was coming. That happened centuries ago, during the earliest days of the Northern Conquest. If you think these periods of history can be easily compared, then you are more short-sighted than I could have imagined. I like what you did there, but one of these days we should sit down and discuss how you talk to an Archon. It begins and ends like this. Don't piss off an Archon. I stood against a presumptive overlord to defend a way of life that no longer exists. The South can afford no such illusions. Kairos has dominated every corner of Terratus, and claiming these lands by might is already accomplished in all but name. The realms of the South are willfully ignorant of their place in the world, and I will neither celebrate nor flatter it with terms like independence or rebellion. With full knowledge of the consequences, the former lords of the South endangered the lives of their people. This cannot be tolerated. Of course, it is possible that these Tearsmen may come to enjoy all the best of Kairos' offerings, but it will take generations of trial and the long-term eradication of culture as they know it, a worthy pursuit by any standard. Do the disfavored have their own laws? I hold the Legion to a particular set of standards. We don't have laws as you would know them under Tunon's teachings, but every soldier in the Legion is aware of my expectations. The first, honor the Legion in thought and in deed. I cannot allow atrocity or heinous crime to drag my respectable Northmen into shame. I expect my soldiers to follow Kairos' mandates and conduct themselves respectably. The second, honor all oaths with your life. This respects the vows made to me as Archon and Kairos' overlord. There can be no formal marriage for the disfavored ranks. This is to prevent any obligations higher than the military. My soldiers can pair up and sire offspring as they wish. The North needs daughters and sons, and I would not force my countrymen to choose between family and loyalty. At last, honor your shield and weapon. The maintenance and care of arms and armor are critical to a soldier's success on the field. Of course, there are rare exceptions. How do you fare under that shell of iron, son of Barraconan? The Archon regards Barrick with interest. Well enough, General. I'm not in top form, but I'm able to execute my duties with distinction. As you say. As you say. Let's talk about something else. I am not made for idle chatter, but in this case I will oblige. Tell me about your connection with your soldiers. Every member of the Disfavored is as precious to me as a family. Their bloodlines are known and respected, their performance in combat beyond every expectation, and I would go to any length in their service. They call me General or Archon, yet I consider myself a servant and guardian of these excellent women and men. I suspect that isn't what you intended to hear. There is a deeper connection still, but to appreciate it, you must understand our history, my rebellion, and my rise to power. Graven Ash, Archon of War, is capable of shielding his soldiers from injury and fatigue. This protective influence exerts itself even from far away or as he sleeps, if he sleeps. Rumors disagree. Few understand how this arcane power works, but all who have faced the Disfavored in battle will attest that Ash's soldiers can survive serious harm and shrug off the fatigue of starvation or the long marches in heavy armor. When the Disfavored are wounded, Ash's Aegis, as some refer to the Archon's unique power, appears to help the Disfavored swiftly recuperate and return to battle. I want to ask about your rebellion against Kairos. You are right to be curious about our history, but it concerns me that you would speak of rebellion. The battles of the past are centuries cold and hard as iron. The uprisings of the past might inform our present efforts. They might, at that. None of the squalling tearsmen hold a candle to my efforts, but I would rather you marched forth understanding your enemy than not. So you want to hear how I decimated the armies of Kairos, built my legion around northern values, and achieved a measure of power? It's true that I accomplished much as a northern warlord, but my life began in earnest under the Overlord's tutelage. Who did you defeat during your rebellion? I defeated Blood Echo, the Archon of War at the time, by leading him into a trap. He must have been so consumed by the fury of the hunt that he overlooked a bit of hasty misdirection. Ash chuckles and shakes his head. Even the execution of that foe was nothing compared to the victory I would win later. I also defeated the Voices of Nerat. The general beams with pride. Strange to imagine that happening so many years ago, and here we are again. My legion nearly destroyed the Scarlet Chorus, humiliated them in fact. I suspect the Archon of Secrets is still licking his wounded pride. I wonder if he would remember the conflict differently, or at all for that matter. The Voices has a long memory, but a short attention span. His soldiers are as disposable and unloved as anything can be. The Voices holds his pride and satisfaction in a higher regard. He's crafty enough that nothing can wound him deeply, though I seem to have earned this distinction. What was it like to assume the Archon of War's mantle? Well, at first I was unaware that I had assumed any power beyond my normal authority. It might seem obvious now, but war tends to confuse such things. I had no desire whatsoever to claim or accept such a responsibility under Kairos. It took years for me to fully come to terms with my own surrender and subjugation, but if I was meant for any title in the honored hierarchy of Archons, war seemed an appropriate one for me. In truth, I think of myself more as a general and a father. Tell me about fighting the Archons. We won many battles against the Archons. Though we did the most damage against the Voices of Nerat, he was by no means the only Archon to assault our shield wall. When the Archon of Entropy tarnished our weapons, we fought with wood. When the Archon of Sorrow sapped our fervor, we rallied around Songs of the North. I dismantled their offenses, even though I lacked an Archon's education or experience. No doubt this is one of the reasons that Kairos singled me out to join the ranks. How did you rise to power? That tale is bound in the rebellion itself. I always inspired loyalty and devotion in my soldiers, but as the years wore on, I grew to love them in turn. Every stone shield is as dear to me as a blood relation, and I would go to any lengths to see them succeed. As we know too well, General, Barrack strikes a fierce salute. When we stood tall against Kairos, the women and men of my legion trained harder, marched faster, and endured more than I had ever taught them. We were unstoppable. The soldiers credited me with this new advantage. I had given them my total commitment, and they felt protected and strengthened by my presence. At first I thought it merely their nature to look to their leader for courage, but nay, they were the first to discover the truth. You mean your Aegis? You clearly paid attention during the conquest. My Aegis, as it has come to be called, covers my loyal soldiers in a protective shroud. Yeah, same story here. They also have 10 times the endurance and coordination of a standard army and shrug off lethal blows without incident. At first I attributed the performance of my legion to their training and breeding, but soon it became clear that something greater was afoot. I suspect this redoubled Kairos' interest in me. The power of an Archon is something to be nurtured or stamped out in accordance with Tunon's judgment. Once the forces of Kairos viewed my influence over the troops as a demonstrable threat, they resolved to put an end to my defiance once and for all. They sent every army they could spare after us, all but sacrificing the Scarlet Chorus in the process. Eventually, as all detractors do, even I fell. What happened next? They dragged me to Tunon's court in chains. I killed 12 guards on the journey. If I was to be shackled for the Overlord's delight, I would pay back the indignity in blood. When I knelt before the adjudicator and felt the force of his judging stare, my temper cooled, turning from anger to fear. Tunon offered me the terms of my own sentence. If I walked the path of insubordination, then the lives of my soldiers were forfeit. If I bent the knee to Kairos, an opportunity that would not present itself twice, then I could continue to serve my legion as their Archon. It was a difficult choice, but not so trying that it paralyzed me. My soldiers had not earned such glory to see it all snuffed out before their time. After I made the choice, Tunon invited me to a council of Archons, where my loyalties were affirmed and my place among their number sealed in a compact to Kairos. No sooner had I become Archon to my soldiers than I'd become the Overlord's Archon of War. That's a pretty decent promotion, and earned through a display of strength. Odd that he holds the chorus in such contempt. You already know the rest. My vaunted legion became disfavored. The Archons even forced me to cast off my northern surname. Graven was a joke at my expense, since I buried my pride in the past. I'm a vassal of Kairos now, but the protection of my soldiers is secure. I've guided their family lines across generations, and the disfavored show no signs of slowing. Enough questions for now. Very well. Would you speak of anything further? Tell me more about yourself. I am a family man. I have always believed that culture has grown from a family legacy and respect for the past. I've sired 4 children in my long life. Ashlerin, Priam, Amelia, and Brennix. I'm a general to my soldiers, but a father as well. They have my confidence, my love, and my trust. There is nothing more to give. My days on Terratus span more than any human lifetime, and on this journey I have learned much. It must be said that I have also grown stubborn. I believe that matters must be handled in a particular way, and see no reason to waver in those beliefs, as they are the product of my experience. Tell me about Ashlerin. My first and proudest accomplishment. What strength she had. During the conquest of the Northern Empire, she was slain by Blood Echo, the madman who once laid claim to the title of Archon of War. I would later cut his head from his shoulder with Ashlerin's broken sword. He continued to scream for minutes after the deed was done. I miss her to this day. Would that she had lived long enough to bring a family of her own into this world. Imagine me, a grandfather. Who was Priam? My son, born to the life I enjoyed before I was Archon. He fell to a wasting illness caused by Pox, the Archon of Ruin. Disease was but one of the many weapons wielded during the conquest of the North. Were he still alive, he would have sat at my right hand, for he was wise in counsel and strategy beyond his years, perhaps even beyond mine. Tell me of Amelia. She has her father's stubborn persistence. She is an excellent fighter, though more brazen and eager to test herself on the field of battle. I've objected to this disposition in the past, but it seems as integral to her being as the very breath she draws. Amelia. She's been missing from the Legion since the fighting escalated in Stalwart. After her advanced detachment, she made her way into the depths of enemy territory, and we lost contact. I fear for her, Fatebinder. I fear for her daily, and not knowing has turned this war into a nightmare. Brennix? My youngest and most beloved. He was joyful and loving, a soldier like his father, and fiercely devoted to his countrymen. He told the most horrid jokes. Perfect line for us to see Prosciutto Fist. Very good to see you, bro. That guy's beard is like so insanely white. I just tried to move my mouse from his face. On top of, I will actually take a quick minute here and mention Revive Snow again, fellow Canadian, camless, voiceless broadcaster. And actually, I will say someone who I've really been enjoying through some of her Dare Drop streams most recently. So I've been adding a few new things to the wish list. But on top of that, we have got the inimitable Prosciutto Fist. Now, Prosciutto Fist is actually, it's been kind of interesting to follow her channel because she does experiment with a lot of different styles of streaming. So she's done some history streams. She's done sort of an audiobook recording with Bram Stoker's Dracula. She also reads a lot of romances with apparently hockey players and perverse actions, which will not be elaborated on. But I will say, like, one of the... This is about the Dracula stuff, right? But no, I will say one of the things I've really enjoyed watching her play the Lost in Random, I don't know, sequel or spiritual successor. Anyway, sort of the Hades like that they did of Lost in Random, The Eternal Die. And one thing that's actually been a bit of a delight, I think I'd originally recommended Game Pass to her for Frostpunk 2, but what this is translated into is just this great flourishing of lots of different kinds of games. I maybe didn't fully appreciate all of the stuff that Prosciutto Fist seems to enjoy playing and does quite well. So, for instance, a game that she's been playing recently has been Blueprints. So that was one that I sort of know. Well, I actually tend to overlook a lot of this stuff in Game Pass just because I already have so many things in my Steam library. But it is a wonderful opportunity to try out some new games. But I will actually say that Prosciutto Fist has been one of the best. It's almost kind of nice to have like Revive Snow and Pro as like bookends, because to a certain extent, Prosciutto Fist is doing a great job of reminding me what I have accessible to me through the Game Pass subscription, whereas Revive Snow is sort of showing me some of the stuff that I never would have found out about otherwise. But I will say, though, that Pro does have a wonderful degree of chaos to her broadcast, but I do always feel like I need to comment here because I don't think she gets enough credit for this. She is very sharp, very thoughtful, and again, it's not always going to be apparent if she's playing a game, and particularly if she is trying to interact with chat. So like I was teasing, I do not mean this in a negative sense whatsoever, but I did enjoy teasing her a little bit because we tried RimWorld recently, and I absolutely know this struggle, but there was this wonderful loop that she would have of like speaking aloud the tutorial sections and then trying to do something that was mentioned in the tutorial and then reading the tutorial for herself. And the only reason I point that out is that I do this all the time on stream, so I absolutely know that struggle. But because I am the chatter in her broadcast rather than the streamer, as you can see here, LMAO drag me, I guess. Yeah, I was going to say, I obviously am going to be a complete jackass about that in her chat rather than, have any kind of compassion for it. But I do want to say, like, as much as I do enjoy some of the chaotic energy on her channel, she definitely will play some more action-packed stuff more often than I do. Although, again, for those of you that like these kinds of RPGs, she did also do a wonderful job of Baldur's Gate 3, both on her own, but also with her mod Viridian, who unfortunately hasn't really been broadcasting all that much. I know she's been involved in a lot of GTA RP. But I did want to take the time here just to shout out Pro, because I figure at the very least, if I'm going to be a complete pain in the neck in her channel, I can at least sort of speak to her qualities here. And if nothing else, too, it's just a chance for, it's an opportunity to sort of give people a reason to hang out, especially because that's the sort of stuff that you're not necessarily going to see. If I host at the last minute, and particularly if there are, chatters who are there for, one reason or another, and it's not a chance to sort of hear her talk about history or some of the subjects of her interest, you sometimes miss those opportunities to really engage. And I always feel that those are some of the things that actually make for quite strong points in Pro's broadcast. And so I always want to take the time to actually just give the nudge in the right direction. Index says you can't get into Baldur's Gate 3, didn't get you hooked like the older ones. That's interesting, because actually I've been trying Baldur's Gate 1 on my tablet every once in a while. I don't think it's a require. I think there's probably like nods. So I think like Minsk and Jahira are characters from the original ones. But I think those are more like nods for the fans rather than anything essential to understanding the story. I have no idea though. It really does seem very impressively done though. I know I sometimes struggle a little bit with the Larian format. I do like that they do a formal turn-based as opposed to this style. But Divinity Original Sin in particular, I definitely found, I think it's on Tactician difficulty I'm trying it on. I'm actually finding it very challenging because it feels like you need to know how to build a character prior, like you can't learn that through experience. And so it's really made this, it's really made for quite a challenge for me. So D&D Fiend though, so it was perfect. Oh, sorry, I should also mention that Pro does an Etsy store and sells dice bags. I think she like puts bathwater in the dice, like every 10th dice bag that gets sold. So yeah, for those of you who are looking for a reason to pick up. My youngest and most beloved, she was joyful and loving. Trying to get you sales. My youngest and most beloved, he was joyful and loving, a soldier like his father, and fiercely devoted to his countrymen. He told the most horrid jokes. But he was taken captive at Vendrian's well and later died. I could feel his life at the moment it was extinguished. The circumstances were unusual, none of the quick violence brought about by blade or hammer. He died by some force that I cannot understand. I would not speak of this further. Let me ask you something else. Go on then. Speaking of family in the midst of war can feel wrong. I wish we were back in the north together. Do you ever wish that you would remain defiant to Kairos? What? Why is that? Fatebinder, I hope I didn't just hear you utter those words. Ash narrows his eyes. You're walking a fine line asking the Archon these sorts of questions, Fatebinder. I would take care in how you address the General in future. I asked you a question, General. As Tunon's Fatebinder, I deserve an answer. Yeah. You go too far questioning the General like this. Don't say you weren't warned. You deserve nothing. You think because the adjudicator gives you a measure of authority that I am obligated to disclose my thoughts to the likes of a legal clerk? I am not as giving as Tunon. My trust is earned, and your impertinence in thinking you're warranted sours any estimate I had of your worth. I have never second-guessed my decision. Had I remained defiant, my beloved Northerners would have faced execution, and by my own hand I would have followed them to the grave. The North fell to Kairos. I mourned for the old ways, even as I served the Conqueror's will, but over time we rose to become greater than a short-sighted warlord could ever dream. The next time you question my loyalty, remember what I have done in the name of army and country. I am the Archon of War. If you seek an expert in backstabbing, perhaps you would be better served in the voices of Narat's company. I hope we understand each other. We're in a civil war. Loyalties are compromised on both sides. Of course, you're right. I shouldn't have responded so harshly. The forces of Kairos already have blades at each other's throats, and you no doubt are more accustomed to rooting out treachery. Accept an old man's grudging admission that things are not as they were, even as he has trouble keeping up. I want this war to end, if only so we can return to the lives of simple obedience. Our enemies don't make this easy for us, do they? He shakes his head and sighs. Farewell. All right. I'm trying to think. So for two-handed weapons, I think I'll add some to might in this case. More points to sentinels, so we can go for shield wall, increases defensive benefits from shields, or further increases the number of enemies that... No, I really want him to suck up as many enemies as possible. Alright. Talithian Crossing, a Scarlet Chorus troublemaker, a mouth-breather Nefiso, has spent the last year targeting disfavored supply depots. The disfavored have him cornered in a village near Lethian's Crossing. Travel there and subdue him before he breaks through the defensive line and escapes. Travel to Cato village to confront mouth-breather Nefiso before he escapes. Into the Maelstrom, Graven Ash wants to kill Stratius Harridan at the end and end the magical storms. Travel to Sentinel Stand and see if Kairos' winds have abated enough to allow entry. Nothing new for the Trial of the Archons. So I'm probably going to do Broken Spear first. I do at some point want to try some of the older D&D games that inspired this. So at some point I'll probably properly go through Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Torment seems to be the one that really gets everyone's attention. Okay, so I think it was Cato Village I needed to go to. It's further away, but... yeah. So when it says before he escapes, I have no idea if there's actually a timer on that, but it will take you 2 days, 2 hours, 45 minutes to complete your journey from Iron Hearth to Cato Village. Ambush! A group of mercenaries, members of the Bronze Brotherhood, are blocking the road to Lethian's Crossing. A tall woman stands here, surveying the area from a small overlook. She glances at you and immediately goes back to watching her surroundings. Welcome to the Iron Hall Trail, Fatebinder of Tunon. She salutes you. My name is Welby, first axe for the Bronze Brotherhood, though I'm not sure that title matters anymore. She pauses to gather her thoughts, then opens her mouth to continue. Instead, she exhales slowly and shakes her head. Never mind. You needn't be burdened with my problems. Well, I appreciate you coming to me before speaking to Raytomon. You will need to be careful. He has, as of late, been acting out of sorts, and any perceived slight can become a problem for one who offends him. Choose your words with him carefully. What can I help you with? How could talking to you offend Raytomon? You chose to speak to a first axe before speaking to an actual first brother, the bodyguard before the leader. How could this mean anything but collusion and treason? I know I speak out of turn, but I only wish to warn you, tread lightly around Raytomon. Tell me about the Bronze Brotherhood. Welby laughs a little. We're mercenaries, plain and simple. I'm not going to pretend like there's anything more. While it's true we have in recent years been a little more stationary than your typical crew, it doesn't change the fact that our services can be purchased if the price is right. We both know full well that the rings that the voices gave us were the only thing that brought our allegiance to Kairos when the Overlord turned an eye to the crossing, even if our thanks for helping was to be thrown from our homes. She contemplates you for a moment. Not that I hold any ill will towards you for it. Decisions have been made, and there's always someone who must pay the price. I just hope you realize that some people don't like being asked to pay. Raytomon will try to sell you on our long and noble traditions, like we're some kind of altruistic saints who can do no wrong, but that story is as old and smelly as Grandma Beastman's tail hairs. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not going to take a job that doesn't seem right to me, but a ring's a ring, and I'll go where the money leads me. One point Raytomon and I agree on is this. We did a job for Kairos, but we were not treated fairly. The Brotherhood is strong, and we have the numbers. We will fight to the last man. I just don't agree with Raytomon's methods. What does it mean to be First Axe? She sighs. I wish I knew, Fatebinder. The First Axe protects and consults with the First Brother. I'm supposed to be Raytomon's advisor, confidant, and guard. Lately, his behavior has become erratic. He's acting paranoid, manic, and distrustful. My duty as First Axe is to protect the First Brother, but I'm also sworn to protect the Brotherhood, and if that means the removal of Radamon, so be it. He has too many supporters in Lethian's Crossing right now for me to speak against him. What do you think has happened to Radamon? Honestly, I couldn't speak to the cause. The stress of leadership, the battle with Kairos' forces, his night in the Old Walls. She shrugs. When you decided to remove the Brotherhood from the Crossing, it certainly set him off. Does it matter? His behavior is endangering the Brotherhood, and he must be stopped before we are destroyed. I fear people will be hurt by far more than a simple toll. How would you run the Brotherhood? I wouldn't waste time and resources on petty vendettas, that much I can tell you. I like battle and I like rings, and with the Brotherhood we used to get both regularly. Now all we have is fear, suspicion, and blood. I want the disciplined regiment back, and I intend to have it. While I may agree that we were treated unjustly, Radamon's methods for obtaining restitution are despicable. True, acting like a child when you don't get what you want is not the behavior of a leader. Except in this case, the child is in control of an army capable of laying waste to its home. Let me ask you something else. That's all for now. By your leave, Fatebinder, and be careful. Big Brother, the Brotherhood is much more organized with Radamon in control.
Can't do that.
Maybe Raytomon? I'm not sure. A small figure stands before some armor-clad soldiers. His arms move wildly as he gestures in frustration, yelling at the man directly in front of him. Absolutely not. I've come through Ironhall Trail more times than I can remember. No one has ever asked for a toll before, and I won't be paying one now. He notices you standing nearby and turns to speak. Fatebinder, surely you of all people can help me. My name is Aster, and I must get to Lethian's Crossing. I have goods to deliver. Tell this man I will not be paying a toll to him or anyone, and that he is to let me through. He folds his arm over his chest and nods with a pronounced finality. Greetings, Fatebinder. I'm sorry you've been drawn into this. What you've stumbled into here is merely a conflict of the changing times. I am Will of the Bronze Brotherhood. Ironhall Trail is under our protection, and anyone passing through must obey our rules. If this gentleman would like passage through our land, a simple donation is required. He holds out his hands. These funds help our cause and keep Ironhall a safe place for all travelers. Clearly you both can see value in that. Aster speaks, his arms swinging about again, emphasizing his words. And who exactly is keeping it safe? You standing there with your weapons at the ready against me? His arms drop and he turns to you again. I'm not but a traveling merchant. I've no money to spare, and I certainly pose no threat to anyone. Keep this area safe indeed, he points at Will. You are the only threat here. Fatebinder, please talk some sense into this man. So here's payment for the merchant to pass unharmed. This man will not be paying a toll today. Call your guards off and allow us passage. Or just because you pass through means nothing. Pay the toll now or head back. You try my patience. This man will not be paying a toll today. Call your guards off and allow us passage immediately. Thank you, Fatebinder. You've done a great deal of good today. Aster bows dramatically. He turns back to the soldier. And you, brute, move aside and let me pass. Will holds his position and gives you a meaningful look. Perhaps you want to reconsider your stance on the matter, Fatebinder. He plants a hammer on the ground and leans on it, staring Aster down. Passage is bought with rings or blood, but I'll happily take both. I stand by my decision. Aster raises his hands in protest. Thank you for your efforts, Fatebinder, but it's not worth bloodshed. I will leave in peace. Will returns to his position and looks you over, his formal genial mood gone. So a Fatebinder in our little corner of the world. Whoever would have thought this would happen? He spits between his feet and then crushes it in the dirt with his boot. You're walking a dangerous line, Fatebinder. The Bronze Brotherhood never back down from threats. He pauses for a moment, sizing you up. Normally I'd knock you down where you stand for threatening me, but Raytomon decided to see you if you came through here. I thought he was crazy saying you'd be visiting Lethian's Crossing. Looks like I owe him a few rings. He shakes the pouch around his neck, making the rings inside jingle melodically. Not that there's a shortage of those out here. What can this humble servant of the Brotherhood do for you, Fateminder? And don't ask me to let you through, because that isn't happening. Someone made the mistake of giving this little man too much power, and he's about to discover what happens when you stand in my way. Do you think you can get him to move? Do it. With pleasure. Hey, shitmeat, do you plan on moving your ass this century, or do we have to stand here jawing like a bunch of graybeards? We're on a mission, and staring at your ugly mug and catching up on the past won't get it done any faster. Are you going to move on, or do I need to start cutting? Because I'm partial to either option. The mercenary's mouth hangs open in disbelief. He swallows and attempts to gather his pride. I would help you, but my boss told me to guard this bridge. No one gets by without Ray Tomlin's permission. So I know who you're keeping in the party. Who would you side with, Prosciutto Fist? The voices of Nerat and the Scarlet Chorus, or Graven Ash and the Disfavored? Actually, now that I think of it, verse lines up with a number of Instagram posts I saw this afternoon, whatever the hell it was. Hello, Takri. Thank you very much for your... thank you very much for your resubscription. That's a ridiculously long time, by the way. And I do actually feel like I should just give people a reminder here that we're now into August. I'm going to be out of the country for most of August. So the plan here is I'm going to try and... Nor would I want to get rid of you, Kareem, but it is something I appreciate. So my intention here is I'm going to try and record some videos for YouTube. I have a backlog of stuff on Twitch, or Twitch VODs, which still need to be uploaded. But one of the things I will try and do while I'm overseas is see if... I think I need to keep my data on already. So what I'll try and do, if there's a reasonably interesting sort of touristy thing that I'm doing that allows me to sort of like stream but not be obnoxious in streaming, I'm going to try and do that. Now, obviously, that's a very ad hoc sort of thing. I'm not necessarily going to be able to like do a whole lot of planning and scheduling for that. And I suspect now, given that my phone's not super old, but it's I think it's down to like 80% capacity or whatever. My general expectation is that like long walk and talk streams are less likely. Let me see if I can see on the battery here. Yeah, so it's like it's not I don't think it's got like its replacement warning yet, but just taking a look at the battery health indicator, like it's at 85% of maximum capacity. So, you know, it's just one of these cases where if I want to go around, you know, using the cellular data to upload, you know, high definition video, let's be real, that's not really gonna be something conducive to a long battery life, but we'll do our best. But yeah, just with that in mind, you know, Takri very kindly resubscribed to the channel, but subscriptions are sort of a forward-looking thing, so a lot of those things that you get an advantage of in terms of your sub, those are not going to be as valuable next month just because of the way work's turned out. It is for work that I mean, that's one nice thing about the job. Old job didn't give me places to go, but in this case, you know, doesn't work well with my side hustle. Kairos, give me strength. You deserve this far more than I'm going to enjoy it. Verse swings her fist and lands a punch with a meaty whack, snapping back the mercenary's head. Will rubs his cheek. Hold on, I'm just doing my job. I apologize if I offended. Reitomon will have my head if I let you through. There's nothing I can do about it. While you were talking to Will, a striking man with a shock of bright blonde hair approaches, moving away from some men searching bodies of slain soldiers to the south. He watches you intently as he closes, his angular features pulling into a look of disdain. And here's the Fate Binder. He doesn't mask the displeasure in his voice. I knew he'd see you. I was just wondering when. One trip to Lethian's Crossing wasn't enough, Governor? He doesn't even mask the contempt in his voice. You had to return where no one asked you to come. Throwing me out of my home wasn't sufficient. Are you here to disrupt my life some more? He looks... I should maybe explain here. So, Conquest Decision, the Bronze Brotherhood were the original protectors of Lethian's Crossing, but they passed control to Kairos' forces and stayed as retainers. Over time, they proved too disorganized to keep the peace. You handed the settlement over to the disfavored, trusting their discipline to maintain order. The Brotherhood mercenaries considered this a slight on their lawful claim. Oh, that would be awesome, Index Gnome. I'm not quite sure where my work travels will take me overall. I'm definitely made sure to book a little bit of time for myself, but there's actually one meeting I'm really looking forward to. But weirdly enough, one of my old managers when I worked at a bank will also be where I am, just completely coincidentally. So I'm going to do a little side trip. So it should be good. It's just I'm really far behind on a lot of prep for the trip, and I know I'll be able to like handle it well, but I just wish I could have done more. Hello, Starbright Knight. Great to see you. I can't remember. Have you ever checked out Tyranny? I don't think it's something I've ever seen you play, but it feels like something, for some reason, I feel like you have either played or said that you like these kinds of RPGs. Okay, no, I must be thinking of something else. I just don't want to say you're the marbles on stream streamer because I've been a very long time since I've seen you do that. All right, he looks at his men who have stopped to watch the conversation. You are done. He flicks his hand at them and they return to their searching. It doesn't really matter why you're here. I don't care. I have more important things to worry about. In case you've forgotten me already, my name is Reitomon. I'm First Brother, leader of the Bronze Brotherhood. But I'm sure you already know that. I couldn't help but see you over there, talking to Will and that traveling merchant. Only here for a moment and already sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, aren't you? I don't appreciate others invading my territory, Fatebinder. I told him he had to speak to you, Reitomon. He wanted through, but I told him no. If you don't give me the signal, the Fatebinder isn't getting into Lethian's Crossing. No one will invade your territory. Reitomon stares at Will for a few moments, lips pursed, and then continues as if Will never spoke. Fair enough. Speaking of which, what did Welby have to say? He looks north where Welby stands, watching you both intently. She's already started filling your mind with lies about me. She and I are going to have a chat soon. I can't have my first axe countermanding me at every turn. I know she wants my position. Watch yourself while you are a guest in my land. If you've come to stir up any more trouble, we are well equipped and will not back down in the defense of what is rightfully ours. He sweeps his arm in front of him, gesturing to the surrounding countryside. Welby and I may not always agree, but that is one point we see eye to eye on. If you step out of line, we will both correct you. His eyes narrow and he leans forward. You are not welcome here. Now tell me what you want or leave. Why are you charging travelers a toll to get through Iron Hall Trail? I don't see how the affairs of the Brotherhood are any of your business, Fatebinder. Suffice to say, the funds we receive from our tolls helps us keep the lands around Lethian's Crossing safe. We are owed our dues, and we shall have them. Tell me about the Bronze Brotherhood. We are a humble group with noble, long-held traditions on the side of right and honor. Reitomon's voice fills with pride. If there is an injustice that needs to be rectified, we are called. Sounds like you're upstanding citizens. Yes, we are, Fatebinder. Reitomon's face breaks into a giant smile. I'm glad someone finally sees us for what we are. I'm tired of people calling us mercenaries and sellswords. So we get paid for what we do. We need to live. I need to get... let's not push that quite yet. Tell me about Welby. He shoots a look to the north. I had such high hopes for her as my first axe. The continued success of the Brotherhood should be the single most important goal for anyone who is a member. She seems to have forgotten her place. She is not the head of this band. I am. If she doesn't stop overreaching, I will have to replace her with someone who knows how to obey. Why is Lethian's Crossing so important to the Bronze Brotherhood? We were asked to do a job and we did it. Then what happens? You throw us out of our home. He makes an emphatic gesture to the north towards Lethian's Crossing. By all rights, that city is ours, and suddenly Kairos wants it. Well, I intend to get it back. I refuse to let this matter die. We protected the crossing for years, and even ensured Kairos' forces could do business here when Nerat asked us to. No, we did the job we were asked to, and this land belongs to us. I need to get to Lethian's Crossing. Raytalman looks at you with an incredulous expression. Absolutely not. You must be crazy if you think I'm letting a disfavored sympathizer through to consort with my enemies. Who knows what plans you would make to undermine my authority. He crosses his arms over his chest. You have some nerve, Fatebinder. Even if you have me thrown from my home, and now you want... You have me thrown from my home, and now you want me back in so you can come up with an even worse punishment. I'm sorry, I screwed up reading that. Let's talk. So I tried to be reasonable, but you had to make it difficult. Let's talk about something else. Tell me what you want or leave. You said you don't do it for the money, but that's why you're fighting over Lethian's Crossing. I don't appreciate your tone or the implications of what you're saying, Fatebinder. Raytalman's eyes are hard and his voice is flat. This is a mere matter of principle. We performed a service and we were paid for that service. Don't try to glibly explain away a complex situation. This is our home. This is my home. I will have it. No one else. Now, if all you came here to do is insult me and mine, I would suggest you leave. I'm not welcome in your land. This is not your land anymore. Notice, by the way, I'm doing the more provocative ones close to the end because it seems like our option here is attack. I'm not going to fully go on the attack on this one. I'm going to see if there's one more option, but we're going to come back and club him on the head if we need to get past. Not welcome in your land. This is not your land anymore. Such arrogance is the precursor to a mighty fall, Fatebinder. I may not currently have control of Lethian's Crossing, but we both know possessions are fleeting. Lethian's Crossing is my home, and your imagined control over our lives doesn't change that fact. You'd do well to watch your tone when speaking to a Fatebinder. Raytamon laughs hollowly. I care not about Kairos' forces. They've already reaped the rewards of my loyalty, and I will not make that mistake again. You've taken my home, but I will have it back. I won't cower when you raise your voices against me, lapdog. We'll speak again soon. I certainly hope that isn't the case. Yeah, so those are disfavored bodies that they're looking at. I wish someone would tell me why I always get put on toll duty.
Can't do that.
I'm going to assume this is going to be a crappy fight. Welby gives you a small salute. Fatebinder, you've returned. What can I help you with? Why are you forcing travelers to pay a toll? Raytalman says it's because it's what we're due, and part of me is inclined to agree with him. But if I were pressed, I would say his pride is hurt and he's lashing out. He can be such a child sometimes. She looks quickly at her guards. Just watch yourself around him. He hasn't seemed completely in control of his faculties lately. It's frightening to see what he's becoming. Did you not swear an oath to your leader, Sellsword? I knew that your loyalty was available to the highest bidder, but I never guessed that it extended to treachery. Raytalman's plans can only doom our entire troop, and I intend to prevent that from happening. I'm loyal, not blindly devoted to someone intent on marching me off a cliff's edge. That's all for now.
Sorry, I can't.
Alright, so this strikes me as a sort of thing that I can lose very easily, so I'm going to save here. I'll try and lock in my decisions, but I really don't want to have to go through all the dialogue again if I lose the combat. Still around, Fatebinder? I'd hoped you decided to move on already. Now tell me what you want or leave. What is so important about these bodies? They are some of Kairos' army who wandered too far from Lethian's crossing. He spits on the closest body and makes an obscene gesture at it. I'll sleep well when they are all dead and in the ground, the only place they're worthy to be. But if they choose to break themselves up like this, it will only make it easier for when the Brotherhood make our claim to what is rightfully ours. How do you plan to take Lethian's crossing? Raytalmon pulls his head back towards you and looks at you askance. Why would you ask this? His voice drops to a whisper. Is Welby planning to undermine my strategy? Gonna make one more try on the, What can this humble servant of the Brotherhood do for you, Fatebinder? And don't ask me to let you through, because that isn't happening. If you do feel like paying the toll, I can point you back the way... if you don't feel like paying the toll, I can point you back the way you came. If you need an idea of where to go, because I can't let you through. So my station means nothing? Out in the middle of nowhere? No, your station means about as much as a whore to an eunuch. He holds out his hand, palm up, and taps his finger in the middle of it. Money is what matters to us. He stops, paling slightly, and touches the red spot on his cheek. Again, no offense intended. Those are the rules Raytalmon set. Oh, I already spoke with Raytalmon, and he said I could pass. Will smirks and shakes his head. Nice try, Fatebinder, but I don't see a sign from Raytalmon. Not even Kairos himself would be getting through here. I'll speak with Raytalmon. Still around, Fatebinder? I'd hope you had decided to move on already. If you're looking for trouble, here it is. I knew you couldn't be trusted, Cad. The forces of Kairos will always show their true face if pushed. Raytalmon retreats, calling to his men as he runs. Guards! We have a snake in our midst! To arms!
Your days!
Probably should have buffed before I,
Ready?
You got it.
I will aid you. Come and face my... I will aid you.
Yeah, this isn't going good. Also, Verse really needs to have her other set of weapons out.
You got it.
Raven.
You got it.
I'll hit you twice hard next time.
Oh my god.
I'll do it.
Sorry, can't you?
I wish Lantry had slightly more self-preservation in mind.
Of course.
I'd maybe feel a little bit better about it if it didn't result in so much attention being pulled away. So like obviously all of these attacks aren't the special ones now. All right.
Will do.
So a little bit, and I have no idea why this counts. So with Lantry, let's get the
Good work.
no.
You got it.
I'm not built
You're kidding me.
for this sort of violence.
I'm gonna try and resist using the okay. Good. So basically I'm trying to get the attention back to away from Lantry. Actually, I'm at a point now where I can probably...
At once.
All right.
Pity you won't enjoy this as much as I do.
Good work.
Fatebinder could use a little help.
I'll take
What
care of it.
is going on?
I will aid you.
So obviously the answer here is to try and take this guy out as soon as possible.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, good start. Nice. All right, so Fatebinder's gonna take the back row for a bit.
Not a problem, boss.
See that?
We're ready to
We did it, Reddit. Obviously, I popped a bunch of once per
You didn't see
encounter
nothing.
abilities doing that, but so this is one of the things I always find is a drawback for games like this, is that I always wonder what the other path could have been, because obviously we now have combat at this area here, but I'm going to quickly go to the Tyranny wiki just to see how this might have turned out a bit differently. Well, I can't say I'm Paradox's biggest fan. One of the things I do appreciate is for a while they used to kind of keep these wikis of their games, so you should have it there. Bronze Brotherhood. Well, that's not helpful. So maybe... All right, let me just see what Google tells us. Yeah, so it looks like the fandom one's a little more complete. The Bronze Brotherhood has existed for hundreds of years, but in the Northern Lands, Leithian, the founder of the Crossing, had heard of them from her travels and hired them to protect Leithian's Crossing, turning the Bronze Brotherhood into a mercenary company operating out of the Free Cities, dotting the Tyr's southern coast. Many of these mercenary companies were employed by Kairos' agents and slaughtered during the war. The Bronze Brotherhood survived thanks to the relatively safe posting at Leithian's Crossing, where the Voices of Narat hired the company to help protect the town's forge operation. Among the most trained and dedicated warriors of the Tyrs, the Brotherhood have a reputation for ruthlessness and tenacity. Aggression and decisive thinking are so highly prized by the Brotherhood that the violent, enigmatic Scourge is the group's mascot, the creature most decent folk consider to be the stuff of nightmares. The term brother is used for mercenaries of both genders, as the company's title harkens back to the archaic notion of living as men. In Tyr's custom, this amounts to releasing all claims on lands to better assure the employer that the Brotherhood won't covet the realms they're paid to protect. The commander of this outfit is referred to as First Brother, Raytalmon as of 430 TR, with a personal bodyguard called the First Axe, Welby. The ranks of the Brotherhood include bruisers and raiders. Interactions: control up Leithian's Crossing. If you do not visit the crossing during the conquest, the Brotherhood will be left in charge. Access to the crossing: on a non-disfavored path, you'll be able to cross through the Ironhall Trail peacefully if you don't attack Raytalmon. If you're already anarchist, you will also be refused passage. In the disfavored path, you'll have to slaughter most of the Brotherhood during the Leithian Crossing quest chain, except for those who are inside the Twin Rivers Old Walls. In the rebel path, they can be chosen as allies at Leithian's Crossing. Well, at this point, it's kind of clear that I didn't have any other options. A striking man with a shock of bright blonde hair stands here observing you, and some men searching... Okay, we've read that. Well, yeah, we'll work with this. Some men searching bodies of slain disfavored soldiers. He watches you approach, his angular features constantly pulling into a look of disdain. During the conquest, he made a deal with Kairos' forces, taking rings in exchange for protecting Leithian's Crossing and keeping his mercenaries away from Haven defenses. However, as the situation stabilized and the Bronze Brotherhood proved to be a difficult bed partner, Imperial forces attempted to remove the Brotherhood from the crossing. Raytalmon took to the resulting fallout between the Brotherhood and the Empire rather badly. Behaving in an increasingly erratic and paranoid manner, he even distrusts his own bodyguard, First Axe Welby, and he believes that she is colluding with others to deprive him of a position. Though he's always unstable, including slaughtering an entire village in retaliation for a perceived slight, this is a new height for him, and it came after a night spent alone in the Old Walls. It doesn't take an archon of insight to realize that the Bane, the idea fixe of the Brotherhood, played a role in his descent into madness. Whispered by the Havoc, trapped in the Twin Rivers Old Walls right under Leithian's Crossing, Raytalmon's personality cracked and fractured, replacing an egotistical but charismatic leader with an insane, gibbering maniac with delusions of grandeur, unwittingly carrying out the Bane's plan to escape its bondage and lay waste to those who encroach on the old walls beneath the Sunset Spire. So I guess I gave myself a small spoiler there, but the main point that this was effectively decided, and this was me kind of trying to see, was there another path that I couldn't figure out, or was this ordained? And yeah, in this case here, it doesn't seem like there was much I could have done. Okay, I'm gonna do another save. Again, it's good to lock in my choices, otherwise I'm gonna... Oh, actually, before I go too much further...
I'll take care of it. Stepping quickly.
I'd have it no other way.
Will do.
This again, Graven Ash protects.
Okay, I'm gonna do this slightly differently.
I got it. Send me your champion!
So the idea here is to try and take an advantage of range as long as I can. Alright, that works for me. Well, I'm sort of out of stuff to do now, so Fatebinder will go in. I think we'll do the same with Verse. Oh, for heaven's sake. Just get in there.
Not a problem, boss.
If you can.
No, wrong guy.
Let's do it, you and me.
Still a very cool attack.
You got it.
I got it.
Okay, so we're getting a little bit better at the combat.
Will do.
Apparently no loot to claim off of the Bronze Brotherhood at all. That's right, you better run, deers. Cato submitted to the disfavored early in the war to avoid bloodshed, and has since been used as a supply depot by Graven Ash's forces. Unfortunately, this has made it subject to Chorus raids, which have left its survivors questioning the wisdom of their decision. Encounter in Lethian's Crossing. Your progress is arrested by the appearance of a gang in crimson and leather who round the corner ahead of you. Oh shit, Verse mutters. The ass gang. She shrugs at your questioning glance. I ran with them for a bit. I bet you did. Sorry. They note you and approach, weapons at ease. The foremost gang member raises a hand in greeting. Hail the gang. You raise your own hand in response, greeting the approaching gang. The leader's head is half-shaven, and a pale sickle of a scar carves down her cheek to the corner of her thin lips. Fatebinder, she says, bowing her head slightly. Verse. Her tone is cold, her eyes narrowed at your Scarlet Fury compatriot. We don't much care about the slippery loyalty of law dogs. Mutts can't help but nip at their betters. Chuckles from the other members of her gang. But Verse, she betrayed the chorus. That demands a scalp. Sorry, Verse answers. I'm flat out of spare scalps, clever ass. The one you're using will do nicely, another member of the gang says. Verse looks to you. They want to fight, and I'm happy to oblige. Your call, Binder. Intimidate them. You step between the gang and Verse, your hand going to your weapon. You remind them of your rage and anger at Vendrian's well, of your actions during the conquest, the widows you left crying and the orphans you left alone, of your choices since. You ask them if they truly want to delay a Fatebinder of Tudon the Adjudicator over an insignificant matter of pride. By the time you finish, they've all backed up a pace. With a final glare at Verse, the choirmen step out on the road and let you pass. Sorry, step out of the road and let you pass. I could have handled them, you know? Glare silently. She meets your glare with a grin and gestures down the road towards your destination. Shall we? Confront mouth breather Nefiso. Now this is normally when I'd wrap up, but let's see if we can get one more quest in for tonight. Heavy cloth sandals. That might be good for Lantry. So, +1 disengagement chance. I mean, it's not a... There's no drawback to equipping these. Yeah, so maybe we'll switch to sandals. Still haven't made a decision in terms of armor for the rest of the team. Broken Spear. Mouth breather Nefiso is cornered at Kato Village. Deal with him before he has a chance to escape. So, same story as before. Most of Kato's settlers fled as Chorus forces approached. This home, like most others, has been abandoned. Throw down your weapons, Mouth breather Nefiso, and I give you my word that your men will be brought back to Ash unharmed. Only to face hard labor or the executioner's axe. Would Ash just forget about the caravans we hijacked? You think we can just sweep that under the rug? The soldier softens her tone, but you can detect an undercurrent of something dangerous. I don't deny that you will answer to Graven Ash. His word is law, and you will find yourself subject to his mercy. The lieutenant barks a fatalistic laugh. I'm already familiar with Ash's mercy. He doesn't tolerate the Scarlet Chorus, no matter if we had a decorated career. I could earn my name 10 times over under the voices of Narat, and it wouldn't matter in Graven Ash's estimate. As far as we're concerned, he's concerned, we're just brigands and pirates, and he grudges us for fighting in his war. This one has a fair point. Graven Ash never wanted the Scarlet Chorus to join the invasion, and only ever saw us as an obstruction. Makes you wonder how he would have fared on his own. I wager the disfavored would have fought themselves into extinction. Or into a better organized conquest, free of division or disagreement. Conjecture is pointless. We will never know. Scarlet Chorus were critical to this campaign. I'm glad that someone thinks so. Girl can't help but feel that the Scarlet Chorus don't get their due. She nods to the argument. This is about to get interesting. Debate all you want, you have nowhere to go. Drop your weapons or die here where you stand. Sucks to your options. I have a better idea. His whistle pierces the silence. Get her, boys.
Heads up.
Buffs. So normally I'd want him to buff himself, but in this case I need to slow people down.
We have company. Afraid of death. I did that.
All right, we're gonna change this up a bit. So Verse will take these guys. Barrett can finally boost himself, and the Fatebinder
I'll do it for
will
the noise.
take these out.
You got it.
I got it. That's how it's...
Stay vigilant out there, Fatebinder. We shouldn't have to run... Well, whatever they said. And Mouth Breather Nefiso just retreated into a settler's home. Follow him and deliver justice.
Right.
That's what we play this game for. But first, let's loot. And as before, we'll do the buffs and such, so...
I'll take care of it.
Curses. No way out. Hey you, I'm assuming from that look on your face you're not here to help me escape. He eyes you with suspicion. Turn yourself over to the disfavored and be spared. As if I would ever believe such a lie. I'd just as quickly run my blade through my guts and face a swifter death. I'll start by killing you. It would be boring to die alone.
Look at...
Okay. Definitely want Barrack at the front of that.
Not a problem, boss.
Great work, Barrack. Tip top. Jesus Christ. So I'm gonna get hit with a disengagement penalty, but it's almost worth it at this point. So let's get Lantry to knock that one down, and then we'll
At once.
tackle this one. Okay. Cool. So that should give me some breathing room with the Fatebinder. Come on, get out of there. Okay. So Lantry's got to drop bombs on these guys. Verse is going to switch her attention here, and then the Fatebinder can offer some...
Leaving till you... You're dead!
Cool. In fact, at this point, it's probably better to turn Verse on.
Will do. Grovel before me!
Alright. So I'm feeling much better about the combat now.
I could bend that apart. I got it.
And some levels. Alright, so for the Fatebinder, this is always a tough call, because we are still primarily oriented towards sort of that frontline role. I don't know. We'll kind of average it all out at this point. But we've definitely gone down the power path. So Rampage gains a stacking accuracy bonus when you deal the killing blow to an enemy. This bonus lasts until combat ends. Greatly increases weapon damage with two-handed melee weapons and allows basic attacks to strike multiple times. Brawler, once per combat, when you fall below 35 health, you gain a large might bonus until combat ends. Not quite how I want to handle that, so I think in this case here we'll just go for two-handed mastery. Alright, you have dealt with the troublemaker, mouth breather, and Ephiso. Return to Akalos and tell him you've completed your task. Probably we want to do that after... Well, we'll see. I guess it depends what the map looks like. Can hear the squeals from out there. I owe you my thanks, Fatebinder. So, we want to go to Sentinel Stand. Although there's kind of an argument for resting up, seeing as we've used a bunch of abilities. So, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to travel back to Iron Hearth. Oh, yeah. Sunset Spire. No, it's on our way. Okay. In fact, I'm slightly inclined. Maybe we go visit the Mountain Spire first. Okay, Revos, a merchant with a motley collection of items for sale. Revos will also create camping supplies periodically. Skill trainer on unarmed attacks, parry, dodge, and subterfuge. One-handed weapons, parry, and athletics. Yeah, a lot of these don't spark joy. Do Tychon the Swindler. Tychon the Swindler will appear the next time you travel to the mysterious device. And Revos, a merchant with a motley collection of items for sale, will also create camping supplies periodically. So we kind of cleared out our sculpture doesn't respond to your touch. So part of this is just to see if I can sell off some of the surplus stuff that I've got.
On it.
I find great height suitable for one who deals in webs and whispers. It is not always about spinning in shadows. I see and hear much from my perch atop your spire. Shall I tell you the whispers I've heard? What tips and rumors do you have for me? Here's an astute tip for you. Stay out of the old walls, my friend. I trade in secrets, lies, and swindles, for which you are in the market today, my friend. Heard any tidings of particular interest lately? Countless. Of which would the Master Fatebinder like to know? How did you end up in Tunon's court? Word spread of our stunt at the Bastard City like wildfire through the tiers. For the first time, my name inspired awe and loathing in the hearts of men. So, to win the siege of Bastard City, you employed the help of a swindler to sneak you and a small contingent of Kairos' elite past the city's walls, while Tychon delivered on his promise, ultimately allowing you to strike a crippling blow to the city's defenses. The going was tough and required several hours of stinking, stooped trekking through a labyrinth of underground sewers. After I spent my time training Fifth Eye's men in the ways and means of my trade, but my hunger for rings has always held more sway than my fondness for bloodshed, so I carved a place for myself in the court. As I am sure you well understand, my friend, there's value in those who can distinguish between the right and wrong ears in which to whisper, and there are many that listen to my murmurs. What do they call you, the swindler? An unfortunate misnomer, my friend. I am wholly and utterly innocent of whichever vile misdeed I am accused, I assure you. The thief hums to himself with clear amusement, unless of course that vile misdeed might gain me favor with any current powers that be. And of course, there was that time I swindled an entire city of her freedom by sneaking a fate binder and his forces in from the sewers. I profited quite nicely from that venture. How was life before the war? Not as interesting or comfortable, nor clean. The swindler plucks a bronze dagger from a sheath on his thigh. He flicks the blade slowly back and forth, blade glinting in the low candlelight as he digs dirt from beneath his fingernails. I was bastard born and raised, had never so much dipped a toe out of the city before my mother died, and my aunt promptly kicked me out on my keel. I ran a short stint in the streets, but it didn't suit me, not having a bed, so I traded my letter of recommendation from a fine nobleman with a betting problem. That cost me a week of playing sleight of hand in the gambling hall. It gained me entry with the sages. I traveled, and it widened my eyes. I saw the Vellum Citadel before it burned, but eventually the sages found my methods too distasteful, and I was expelled. It didn't prevent me from forging my writ of graduation, of course. The swindler flashes you a twisted smile. I see. I'm looking for a master merchant, someone with exquisite items. Then you'll wish to speak with Harkian Bronze in Lethian's Crossing. I can tell you has access to the best supply routes in the tiers, though he'd deny it to his death throes. What tips and rumors have you found for me? I have heard that spells are indeed effective against the Bane, contrary to what many had previously feared, but even the smallest magical expenditure in the old walls can attract every Bane within 50 paces. Extreme caution is recommended. Found anything lying around that I would be interested in? I am working, Fatebinder. Always working. Come check back later. Fatebinder, come take a look. The dirt-caked Apex local gestures at an old box at his feet. Got you a beastman cub in here. Take a look. I doubt that very much. You step up to the huckster and peer down inside the box. It's full of assorted junk, nothing more. Before you can comment, you notice him reaching for your ring belt out of the corner of your eye. Grab his hand. He makes a high-pitched squeal that echoes over the expanse of the valley. I didn't mean anything by it, I promise. I just wanted to see how many rings you had, so I could adjust my prices accordingly. Revos at your service. I've come into possession of some items that might be of interest. He waggles his eyebrows. Are these stolen? At first he seems about ready to spout off a hasty answer, but he pauses and reconsiders. No, not in the sense that they aren't stolen, but yes in the sense that I'm not entirely, he coughs into his fist, licensed. Among the other things, Kairos' laws of quota and sharing meticulously regulates tradable goods. Permits are issued to deserving merchants on an annual basis, but their allowances circulate by design, known only to Kairos and Tunon. A former wool peddler may be restricted to selling only copper, and the subsequent year trade fresh vegetables. But wait! Before you throw me into Tunon's dungeon or worse, consider this. He spreads his arms and turns in a circle. We aren't standing on Teratist. We're standing high above any citizen who is subject to the Overlord's law, and this place couldn't possibly subject to the same rules that govern down there. He stamps his foot and points to the land below. Don't presume to understand Kairos' will. I will need to consider the legalities. In the meantime, I'll take a look at your goods. You know, it might be better for me to evaluate weapons first. So in this case, it's only two-handed. I think we've more or less gone through this, so I'm looking for DPS in this case. None for my main character. Now, verse is always a tricky one, but Okay, looks like we're back to the same barrack. This is a little surprising, but so be it. But better armor penetration, okay. I guess I have to have a shield. um, Now for Lantry, this is an interesting one. So right now I've given him the Earthshaker's staff, but we seemed to get, what was it? So there's Pillar of Courage here. Immunity to Frightened. I mean, I'm slightly inclined just for the bonus there. Okay, I think I've got some ideas about what I'm willing to sell in that inventory. I obviously want to make sure that Ebb has a few things she can work with. Now, this is a hard one for me. So if I were to... I guess if I were to go for out of light armor, I'd probably do the Vendring Guard Heavy Bronze. But I'm not. So we've got the Nobleman's Tunic, which not quite enough. Yeah, I've really limited myself here. Blood-soaked boots, on the other hand. So we've got cleansing. Yeah, this is a tough one because we've got the Commander's Will with the cleansing victory. I'm going to settle for not equipping those right now. Okay, so for Verse, again, it's a story of light stuff. Yeah, so not much to speak of. Barrack doesn't have any armor that we can work with, so it's down to Lantry, who's more or less gone through this stuff, but let's double check. I'm slightly willing to impose the lesser... So, like, the extra recovery time worries me a bit, but the disengagement chance... is tempting here. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. If there's potential for armor. Oh, this is interesting too. So we've got the Magician's Mantle right now, +3 to magic skills. Yeah, so that's not going to work there. Well, actually, I don't know that I'd use all of that, so... The hell? What's going on here? Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to do it by memory. What's the story with these? Right, I need a forge. House seal. The seal was made with care and attention to detail. You recognize its sigil from the merchant house hand over quill. Don't think any of these are accessories. Other, spire, yeah, so it'd be here. Okay, cool. We made anything lately? Not at the moment. Stop by later. Okay, so basically we want to make some money here. So, Phalanx I might hang on to, but the iron... Okay, so Vendrian Guard dagger I'm not going to use. We've already made the choice for the... well, have we? Okay, Iron Javelin versus Bronze. 10 to 15 versus 8 to 12. Recovery 1. Okay, so slightly more accurate if I go for the Bronze. Sun Soldier's Javelin seems to be better than the rest. Okay, and the rest, alchemy supplies. So again, I don't know if I'm going to use any of the... Some of these actually seem like they may have some later use. So I'll take stuff like the broken staff and all of that. The thing is, right now, I don't need the rings. This is more so I can. Obviously, there's the temptation to buy the Fate Binder set, but...
Can't do that.
I'll live with this. All right, and then to our... Because it's on the way to Sentinel Stand, we'll go to the Iron Hearth, turn in the quest, and I think we will say that is it for tonight. Oh, right, we were going to rest as well.
Can't do that.
It is what time? Greetings. Have you dealt with the troublesome lieutenant yet? I killed the Scarlet Chorus lieutenant. Indeed you have, and well done. One less reason for me to look over my shoulder. Here you go. Fair payment for a job well done. He passes you a loop of rings. Is that all? These are hardly an assassin's wages. Are you an assassin or a sworn servant of the court? Don't answer that. If you're confused about the difference, then I don't want to hear about it. Take your blood money. He tosses you a few more rings. Pleasure doing business with you. Farewell. This is partly to avoid my stupidity for the next stream, but we're going to go to the next location. But we won't do any activity in Sentinel Stand. So, this battered fortress is the historic home of Stalwart's ruling families, the Regents, protected by two massive walls. It was never taken during the conquest. Frustrated with the siege, Kairos issued an edict that severely damaged the castle and left it encased within a massive perpetual tornado. It'll take you 15 hours, 15 minutes to complete your journey from Iron Hearth to Sentinel Stand. Ambush! Your journey is interrupted by the feral howls of a hunting pack of beastmen. Their leader is an impressive specimen, her mane black as night and her body scarred from battle. This doesn't seem like much of an ambush. Kills in shadow. Before you towers a massive creature of fur and flesh, her short black snout snuffing the air.
Know this scent. Stench of blood, sweat, battle, iron and death. Smells like alpha. Smells of strength. But is male.
The beast woman cocks her head to one side, eyes bright with curiosity and red as fresh blood. Those eyes rove your body up and down, darkening with a sudden heat, with the look that a predator bestows its prey.
Have been stalking human centrail. Have ranged many more than 5 nights through tribe and human territories of Tyr's land, hunting for human called Fate Binder, for human who woke Horizon Rock called Mountain Spire. Have hunted hot high, cold low, wet dry. Traipsed far until paws bled, but always human who smelled of alpha evaded beast woman. Had to slink through shadows, fast, quick, without rest to catch delicious prey at last.
She tongues her blade-sharp, discolored fangs and exhales a pleased growl. Your markings must be from the Shadow Hunter tribe.
Fate Binder knows tribes of beast women. Curious human. Male who smells of alpha and knows of Shadow Hunter tribe. Best tribe. Lost tribe of kills in shadow.
I'm not looking for conflict. I merely want to continue on my way.
Beast woman did not range so far, chasing scent and tracks of Fate Binder, only to step aside and watch human leave beast woman behind.
She snarls.
Nope. Will not move from way.
Explain yourself, beast woman. What is it that you want?
Humans.
She hacks. The beast woman's nostrils flare wide and her eyes brighten with amusement.
No human called Fate Binder. Kairos breeds words on paper. Fate Binder binds words to earth and sky. Makes ground tremble. Makes night cry, blood and fire.
I merely read Kairos' edicts. I am but a vessel for the Overlord's great magic.
Fate Binder speaks and storms rage. Humans wail. Sun dies. Fate Binder speaks and rocks tear through flesh like killing claws.
The beast woman cants her head to one side, confused.
Tribes of Kairos fear Fate Binder. Human Alpha claimed Horizon Rock called Spire, and Archons did not kill Fate Binder. Archons rolled over and whined, covetous.
Okay, so maybe you've heard of me.
Kairos hunts human realms to extinction. Rules tribe of blood and ruin, starvation and death. Seeks to slaughter beast women like prey. But beast women are not prey. Are not flighty, feeble-minded humans.
Kills in shadow spits a gob of tawny mucus on the ground.
Beast women are savage hunters. Bred to fight Kirut, like Fate Binder who smells of alpha.
Is this a marriage proposal?
Strong always kill weak, then grow weak. Though killed is migration of life. But kills in shadow is not weak now. Will not be weak for many long seasons. Will join Fate Binder and survive Kairos' tribe.
You'd side with the enemy to survive?
Enemy? No enemy. Only competition. Only strong tribes and weak tribes. Only win or die. Adapt to survive.
If you want to join me, it will have to be as my beta.
Kills in shadow is not beta. But even alphas submit to stronger-willed primas. Many packs make a tribe. Is this not a thought humans also understand? Beast Woman will follow Fate Binder. Will not dominate. Unless Fate Binder begins to smell weak.
She tongues one of her upper fangs, lips split into a feral grin. Fine, but keep your nose to yourself. The beast woman huffs and turns to address her pack.
Kills in shadow will not shelter stone whelps anymore. Scamper, run, flee! Do not want to see shadows lurking, stalking behind. Barb cleft his leader now.
The pack hesitates, causing Kills in Shadow to emit a low, menacing growl.
Will not like if Kills in Shadow catches sight or scent of stone mongrels again.
Will do.
The great spikes of the blade grave provide cover for soldiers and beasts alike, making them perfect sites for ambushing unwary travelers. Encounter in the blade grave. Through the billowing dirt and rust, through the billowing dirt and rust kicked up by the Edict of Storms, you make out the shifting silhouettes of a small group ahead of you. Appearing lightly armed and armored, the group pulls 2 carts in their wake. They haven't noticed you through the maelstrom. Allow them to pass by without making your presence known. They continue past without noticing you and fade into the wailing winds. All right, we've made it to our destination. So, I'm hoping that I will be back to this on Wednesday. So, again, the plan here is going to be... There may be something about the weight of Aegis, but at the minimum, Into the Maelstrom, the War of Archons has begun. Support Graven Ash's initial attempts to pacify the Tears. Investigate Sentinel Stand Keep. Graven Ash wishes to kill Stradius Herodin and end the magical storms. Travel to Sentinel Stand to see if Kairos' winds have abated enough to allow entry. I do have a bit more money now, so if I want to hire more people... let's hire... I can't hire both. So I can get someone who will sell me stuff. I've already got someone who's a merchant. I can get a smith to regularly produce weapons, or I can get... Okay, so I don't really use the food. So in this case, I think we'll hire the smith to start. And at that, we'll call it a night. So yeah, the plan is, if I can... I'll be back to this on Wednesday. If I'm particularly lucky, I'll actually be able to stream on Friday as well. It depends kind of how the day works out in terms of my travel plans and such. But the big thing here is that so there's a few things that I need to compete with. So one, I do want to record episodes for YouTube, just so that there's something more for people to have as part of the House of Light thing doing for the YouTube series. I have the prep, like I'm trying to do all the work prep stuff during my working hours, but the fact of the matter is that there's enough for me to do that I can do that on my own. I could do that on my own time and still probably be behind. So I'm going to try and find the right balance between that and also sort of having a life. And then just getting ready for the trip. Like there's, I actually haven't gotten accommodations for all of my trip. There's one more week, which I still need to book some hotels for and stuff like that. But that kind of depends on where I'll be over the course of the trip. But it's not something for you. But anyways, if things get interrupted over the course of the week, that's why. I just have a lot of prep to get done. But as a final step, let's find someone to host tonight. And then for those of you who don't get a chance, if we don't see each other between now and then, I will be back in September. So definitely this is going to be the last week of streaming that I'll have for a while. I do intend to come back, as always. I've been inconsistent with the start times, and that can sometimes be a bit of a signal that things are, going away. But my commitment has always been to telegraph as far in advance as I can if I'm going to be changing things or winding them down. In this case, the thing I want to telegraph ahead of time is the fact that I'm I'm just not going to be able to stream games. Like I said, I'll try and do some stuff while I'm overseas. But I don't want that to be implicitly taken as a signal that I've sort of lost interest in streaming. I will still be doing that. I just know that August is going to be sort of my last big break from streaming for a while. We'll see how it goes, of course. If I have to do other work stuff, we'll deal with that when it emerges. Anyways, Kilgore Trout is available, so I will leave you with him. He is actually doing also an RPG. I believe it's Ultima 9. Sorry, I know I canceled the music there. Yes, Ultima 9 Ascension. So I will leave you in his capable hands. Have a good night, everybody, and I will see you on Wednesday, hopefully. Until then, take care.